Chapter 5482. Chu Yuntian was so angry that he laughed. True chi surged all over his body, revealing the strength of an early-stage, nascent soul cultivator. Evil creature. This old man has really raised a son like you for nothing. Come, come, come. Let this old man see just how strong this net of yours is. It can even kill this old man, a fish, without breaking. Early-stage nascent soul. What's so great about that? Chu Hongding looked at Chu Yuntian with pity and mockery, as if I'm not an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. With that, his aura soared. He was just as strong, just as violent, just as strong. Early-stage nascent soul cultivator. How is this possible? Chu Yuntian was shocked, and so was Chu Yunting. A few days ago, Chu Hongding had been at the peak of the mid-stage gold core realm. How could he have suddenly become an early-stage nascent soul cultivator? Could one level up like this? Could one level up a day? Since when did cultivation become as fast as walking upstairs? Chu Yunting suddenly felt like he'd been living like a dog for the past few decades. What's going on? Chu Yunting and Chu Yuntian looked at each other. Unfortunately, the questions were all the same. No one knew the answer. Could it be that Chu Hongding had obtained several spirit knowledge fruits, golden cores, and nascent souls? That didn't make sense. In the entire hall, only Linny had expected this. When he saw Chu Hongding erupt with early-stage nascent soul strength, Lin Yi rubbed his chin thoughtfully. There was indeed something wrong. He hadn't been mistaken. The old man's unstable aura was indeed caused by a breakthrough. But he hadn't expected him to break through to early-stage nascent soul so quickly. Other than Linny himself, there was only one person who could do it, be it the common world, Sky-class island, or this small world of the ancient times. The center. That damned center had already raised its hands to the Chu clan. His movements were really fast. Old thing, you're no longer fit to be the clan master of the Chu clan. You should abdicate as soon as possible. I'm your son. After all, why don't you let me hold this position for a few years? Chu Hongding chuckled. His original plan was to help his son become the young patriarch. Now that he was the patriarch, wouldn't his son be the young patriarch? Evil creature, I don't know what crooked method you use to raise your level, but you think you can contend against this old man? Today, I'll show you what an experienced early-stage nascent soul cultivator is capable of. How could Chu Yuntian allow Chu Hongding to replace him in such a manner? He was about to attack and take care of this rebellious son. Both of them were at the early stage of the nascent soul realm. Chu Hongding had clearly just broken through, and his aura had not yet stabilized. Chu Yuntian had taken this into consideration and believed that he had an 80% chance of defeating Chu Hongding. Seeing that the two Yuanying stage old monsters of the Chu clan were having an internal conflict, the guests in the hall had already retreated to make room for them. What a joke. Although it was good to watch the show, it was better to watch the battle between two nascent soul old monsters from afar. With everyone retreating, most of the tables were empty. Only the table closest to Chu Hongding still had two hooded figures. Previously, Linny hadn't paid much attention to these irrelevant people. Now that he looked closely, he realized that they were old acquaintances. The two of them slowly stood up and arrived next to Chu Hongding in a flash. They removed their hoods to reveal their true appearances. They were Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taizong. From the moment Linny guessed that Chu Hongding's ascension had something to do with the center, he guessed that Chu Hongding still had some tricks up his sleeves. Thus, he wasn't surprised to see these two appear. Xue Jianfeng said arrogantly, "Old thing, you want to show Chu Hongding the foundation of an early-stage nascent soul cultivator? Then let's see if this young master can make your mincemeat sink to the bottom of the sewers." As he spoke, Xue Jianfeng also circulated his own cultivation method. His incomparably tyrannical aura had actually reached the level of a perfected nascent soul cultivator. Chu Yuntian's aura was immediately and thoroughly crushed. He forcibly retracted what he was about to do. Perfected nascent soul cultivator. Chu Yuntian's expression changed drastically. He never imagined that Chu Hongding would have a perfected nascent soul cultivator behind him. That was the pinnacle of combat power in the primordial underworld. Xue Jianfeng was extremely pleased. He didn't expect that he could reach perfected nascent soul so quickly after joining the center. In the current primordial underworld, there weren't many people who could be his match. Even if there were a few veteran perfected nascent soul cultivators, Shui Jianfeng didn't fear them in the slightest. Behind him was the center. By his side, there were mass-produced perfected nascent soul cultivators, such as Yu Taizong. Elder Yu, come and show off your skills, lest this old thing doesn't know how powerful you are. Seeing Chu Yuntian trembling in fear before him, Shui Jianfeng's vanity was greatly satisfied. Thus, he wanted to drag Yu Taizong along to enjoy this feeling. Yu Taizong joined the center in order to increase his strength. Now that his dream had come true, wouldn't it be like returning home in glory if he didn't show off? Thus, he smiled and nodded, completely releasing his perfected nascent soul aura. Another perfected nascent soul cultivator? Chu Yuntian completely lost his courage. Facing an early nascent soul cultivator, Chu Yuntian still had some confidence in defeating him, but facing a perfected nascent soul cultivator, Shui Jianfeng, Chu Yuntian simply had no intention of resisting. Now that there was an additional Yu Taizong, the fact that he didn't kneel on the spot was already a display of Chu Yuntian's willpower. Seniors, this is our Chu clan's matter. Why must you forcefully interfere? Although Senior's strength is astonishing, aren't you afraid of giving others the wrong impression? Chu Yuntian's body didn't dare to resist, but his mouth still made a final struggle. Give others the wrong impression? I'm so scared. If I give others the wrong impression, won't I be surrounded and attacked? That's too scary. When the time comes, I have to prepare a few more sets of clothes. Otherwise, if I kill too many people and get covered in blood, I won't have enough to change into. Shui Jianfeng first made a fearful expression, then changed the topic and began to laugh wildly. Chu Yuntian was both shocked and furious, but there was nothing he could do. With Shui Jianfeng's perfected nascent soul strength, he could do as he pleased in the ancient martial world. Unless he was surrounded and attacked by cultivators of the same level, ordinary cultivators would die no matter how many came. They simply weren't enough for him to kill. Chapter 5483. Chu Yuntian smiled bitterly and sighed softly. I understand. From today onwards, I, Chu Yuntian, will abdicate and become the Chu family's supreme elder. Chu Hongding will take over as the family head, effective immediately. To tell the truth, Chu Yuntian's emotions were complicated. He'd been forced to abdicate by his son and outsiders. He'd been utterly humiliated. However, when he saw Chu Hongding's allies, it was clear that he wasn't wrong. In his hands, the Chu family truly had a chance to rise. Half gratified and half sorrowful, Chu Yuntian glanced at Chu Hongding. This was his own son. Although he was talented, his heart wasn't in the right place, and his actions were too radical. If he could steadily develop the Chu family with him, it wasn't impossible for the Chu family to rise. As for now, it seemed like the Chu family would rise even faster in the short term. However, it was hard to say what would happen in the future. When Chu Hongding heard Chu Yuntian's announcement, he beamed with joy. He'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. Hadn't he been planning for this moment all along? Since I, Chu Hongding, have taken over as the family head, the first thing I'll do is clean up the family. That traitor Chu Tianlu misled the masses with his lies, harmed his brothers, stole the family's treasures, colluded with outsiders, and so on. His crimes are too numerous to count and cannot be forgiven. Drag him out and kill him immediately. Chu Hongding pointed at Chu Tianlu in high spirits and loudly declared his crimes. The descendants of the Chu family didn't dare to object. Even the family head, Chu Yuntian, had been forced to abdicate by Chu Hongding. If they disobeyed Chu Hongding's orders now, they knew what would happen to them. Two early Golden Core Chu family disciples quickly walked towards Chu Tianlu, ready to drag him out and kill him. Chu Hongding suddenly waved his hand. Wait, let him watch from the side. Otherwise, he won't be able to die in peace. After stopping the two Chu family disciples, Chu Hongding smiled at Chu Tianhao and said, Tianhao, let your father arrange a marriage for you. If it weren't for that traitor's mental issues, this marriage would have been his. Chu Tianlu didn't pay any attention to Chu Hongding's smug look. He was thinking about how he could turn defeat into victory. No matter how he thought about it, he didn't think there was any other way besides Lin Yi. As for whether Lin Yi would be able to turn the situation around, it was hard to guarantee. Sect Master Yi Qingqing, shall we settle the marriage we agreed on before? My son, Chu Tian, is a direct descendant of the Chu clan. He'll be the heir to the Chu clan in the future. There shouldn't be any problems with your sect's Duanmuyu, right? With Chu Hongding's current strength, the alliance with the Leaf Spirit sect was no longer important. But no one knew a son better than a father. Chu Hongding was well aware of Chu Tianhao's desire for Duanmuyu, so the marriage had to continue. Yi Qingqing hurriedly pulled Duanmuyu in and said, "No problem, no problem. Speaking of which, young Master Tianhao is really talented. Our Xiaoyu is climbing up the social ladder. Since Patriarch Chu doesn't mind our Xiaoyu's clumsy little girl, then let's settle it like this. There's no time like the present. Let's get engaged today." Lin Yi frowned slightly and sent a telepathic message to Bing Wuqing. "Wuqing, go and protect Chu Tianlu first, lest he accidentally dies." "Yes, Boss Lin Yi." Bing Wuqing nodded in agreement. She stood up, parted the crowd in front of her, and walked over boldly. "Chu Tianlu is someone I, Bing Wuqing, brought back. Kill him? Who dares?" Bing Wuqing's body emitted wisps of coldness. With every step she took, frost rapidly spread from the soles of her feet, forming a thin layer of ice on the ground. Although the aura of a peak early nascent soul cultivator wasn't as strong as that of Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taizong, it was more condensed and sharp. It seemed to be able to break through Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taizong's perfected nascent soul aura. Bing Wuqing. Xue Jianfeng was overjoyed. He hadn't heard Chu Hongding mention that Bing Wuqing was here. Otherwise, he would have gone to find trouble with her long ago. All this while, Xue Jianfeng hadn't been able to gain any advantage from Bing Wuqing. Now that Xue Jianfeng was a top-notch nascent soul expert, how could he not seek revenge on Xue Jianfeng? Chu Hongding actually wanted to talk to Xue Jianfeng about Bing Wuqing. After all, Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taizong were both from the Snow Sword faction. He was wondering if the three of them had some sort of connection. However, he had been really busy these few days, and he had to set aside some time for the sinner to improve his strength. After a while, he didn't have the chance to meet Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taizong, which was why he had been delayed. "That's great. I've been looking for you, but I couldn't find you. So you've been hiding here." Xue Jianfeng smiled proudly. "Chu Tianlu is one of your men? Then I really can't kill him. I have to torture him and make him wish he was dead." Bing Wuqing glanced at Xue Jianfeng coldly and said indifferently, "You can try." "I'll try." The corner of Xue Jianfeng's mouth curled up. He was about to make a move to torture Chu Tianlu. However, before he could move, he realized that the air around him was filled with countless tiny black ice crystals. The temperature was dropping, and even the air seemed to be freezing. "This is the merciless ice style?" Xue Jianfeng looked at the thin black ice on his body in disbelief. He couldn't understand why the merciless ice style, which was clearly useless, had suddenly become so strange and domineering. Just the evolved version of the merciless ice style was enough to threaten Xue Jianfeng's safety. Therefore, Xue Jianfeng didn't dare to take any more risks. He hurriedly called out, "Elder Yu, this Bing Wuqing is a little strange. Let's work together and finish her off quickly." Yu Taizong nodded. "All right, you attack from the front, and I'll support from the side." Xue Jianfeng almost vomited blood. If he could threaten her with a direct attack, why would he need Yu Taizong's help? But no matter what, there were two nascent soul perfection experts. If they attacked Bing Wuqing at the same time, no matter how powerful his new merciless ice style was, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. All of a sudden, an indifferent voice rang out beside Xue Jianfeng. "You've really forgotten the pain now that you've recovered. Why don't you learn from your mistakes? You're really a fool who doesn't learn from your mistakes. Do you want me to continue teaching you a lesson?" Xue Jianfeng shuddered subconsciously. This voice was too frightening, and it had practically left a shadow in his heart. He turned around stiffly. Who else could it be but Lin Yi? Chapter 5484. No, I'm a consummate nascent soul expert, and there's no one more powerful than me in the entire immemorial martial world. What's a mere Lin Yi? Lin Yi looked at Xue Jianfeng mockingly and said, "It's not easy for you to know about a stalker. but Wuching and I have been living here for a few days, and if we're talking about a stalker, it seems you're the one." Chu Hongding pointed at Linny and said, "This brat isn't any good either, and he's a little strange. Let's attack together and kill both of them." Xue Jianfeng subconsciously shrunk his neck. Although he was cheering himself on, his intuition told him that it was better to stay as far away from Chu Hongding as possible when facing Lin Yi, lest he got caught in the crossfire. As expected, Lin Yi didn't even need to do anything. Bing Wuching had already appeared beside Chu Hongding without batting an eyelid. She reached out and grabbed Chu Hongding's outstretched finger and said, "My boss hates it when people point at him, so I guess you don't need this piece of trash anymore? Then say goodbye to him properly." Before she finished speaking, there were two cracking sounds. Chu Hongding's outstretched finger was completely broken by Bing Wuching. The fingers were connected to the heart, so Chu Hongding immediately screamed in agony, and the people around him couldn't help but shiver. He was merely an early-stage nascent soul expert who had relied on the central drug to advance and hadn't even stabilized his strength. So how could he be a match for Bing Wuching, who was at the peak of the early-stage nascent soul realm? If Linny hadn't given the order, Bing Wuching could have easily killed him. Chu Hongding's finger was broken and pointed at his own nose. Unable to bear the pain, he fell to his knees and screamed in agony. "Bing Wuching, how dare you!" Yu Taitsong shouted and charged forward. Unlike Xue Jianfeng, he hadn't suffered a great loss at Lin Yi's hands. Although he was a little wary of Lin Yi, he had, after all, reached the consummate nascent soul realm that he had dreamed of. Seeing that Chu Hongding was at a disadvantage, he immediately tried to save him. Bing Wuching snorted coldly. She had no intention of backing down, even if Yu Taitsong's abilities were several levels higher than hers. Tiny black ice crystals instantly filled the hall, and the power of the merciless ice force completely erupted. Even the air was filled with the faint sound of ice condensing. Yu Taitsong's expression changed slightly, but he still smiled faintly and said, "Made some progress. Truly well-deserving of being our snow sword sect's genius. However, aren't you being a little rude in front of me, a grand elder?" Before he could finish his sentence, Yu Taitsong's right wrist shook, and a ray of white light exploded. Within the light, an almost transparent sword blade pierced toward Bing Wuching like a venomous snake flicking its tongue. The swordsmanship of the Snow Sword sect was definitely not just for show, especially after Yu Taitsong pulled out the Snow Sword sect's ice-shattering sword. Its power had increased a few notches. Even the upgraded merciless ice force could only be torn apart by the ice-shattering sword. Bing Wuching's pupil shrank slightly, and black ice spikes appeared out of thin air in both of her palms. The black ice spike in her left hand swept out in front of her with all her might in an attempt to fend off Yu Taitsong's ice-shattering sword. However, the black ice spike in her right hand was ruthlessly flung out by Bing Wuching, and it appeared in front of Yu Taitsong's chest as if it had teleported. Putting aside the fact that Yu Taitsong only had the power of a nascent soul-perfected stage, even if he had broken through to the Mystic Ascension stage, he would definitely be severely injured if Bing Wuching's black ice spike pierced his heart. However, Yu Taitsong was after all a nascent soul-perfected stage old monster who had made a name for himself a long time ago. He was different from Xue Jianfeng, who had forcefully advanced from the Foundation Establishment stage to the nascent soul-perfected stage. After all, he had the foundation of a nascent soul middle stage, and his strength after the advancement was the most stable in comparison. Faced with Bing Wuching's lethal black icicles, Yu Taitsong did not even bat an eyelid. The ice-shattering sword merely spun slightly, and a pulling force was generated on the blade, pulling the black icicles that had just brushed past the sword. In this way, the direction of the black ice spike was completely different. Not only did it avoid Yu Taitsong's heart, it could not even hit his body. As for the black ice spike that Bing Wuching's left hand had swept horizontally to block, it had missed its target as the ice-shattering sword rotated. A ferocious smile appeared on Yu Taitsong's face. To be able to kill a genius with his own hands, especially a genius from his own sect, it felt pretty good. Bing Wuching was still expressionless. Even though the aura of death had completely engulfed him, it did not faze this iceberg-like man in the slightest. The tip of the ice-shattering sword, which was shining with a dazzling light, was almost kissing his throat. Even if Bing Wuqing wanted to retreat, there was nowhere for her to do so. Moreover, Lin Yi was behind her. At this moment, the first reaction of Bing Wuqing, who had always prided herself on being calm, cold, and rational as ice, was that she could not dodge, or else she would endanger Lin Yi. Bing Wuqing's subconscious reaction was to dodge, but she only gave a slight jerk before she firmly stopped. Lin Yi, who was behind her, instantly understood what Bing Wuqing was thinking. Regardless of whether Bing Wuqing was sincere or just doing it subconsciously, Lin Yi was grateful for her kindness. Besides, she could not really let anything happen to Bing Wuqing in front of Lin Yi. At the same time that the ice-shattering sword shone brightly, Lin Yi was actually already prepared to strike. Soul Hook. In the face of Bing Wuqing's fatal crisis, Lin Yi did not hesitate to use the Soul Hook instead of the consciousness vortex that he had yet to thoroughly study, because he was worried that Bing Wuqing would be at a disadvantage in Yu Taizong's hands. Bing Wuqing was almost ready to accept the cold feeling of the ice-shattering sword piercing her throat, but she was not the type to close her eyes and wait for death. Even if she was going to die, she would definitely try her best to drag someone down with her. So in that instant, the black ice spike in her left hand was also flung out. Her target was not Yu Taizong's body, but the other black ice spike that had been diverted by the ice-shattering sword. In just a short moment, the situation had taken a series of twists and turns. From Yu Taizong's strike, to Bing Wuqing's counterattack, to Yu Taizong's continuous attacks and almost killing Bing Wuqing, to Bing Wuqing's dying counterattack, to Lin Yi's intervention, everything had happened almost at the same time. Outside the hall, those below the nascent soul stage did not even have the chance to clearly see the movements of these people. As for the nascent soul experts, they could only roughly see it. Of course, no one could clearly see Lin Yi's soul hook. Only Yu Taizong himself knew exactly what kind of attack he had suffered, but he did not have the chance to say it. Chapter 5485. In a battle between experts, how could there be a single flaw? Bing Wuqing would naturally not let go of such an opportunity to turn the tables in a situation that was supposed to be certain death. Although she did not know that it was caused by Lin Yi's soul-reaping hand, Bing Wuqing immediately reached out to grab the thin blade of the shattered ice sword and wrapped it in black ice. At the same time, the black icicle that Bing Wuqing had counterattacked with before her death cleverly struck the black icicle that had been deviating from its original course. With a soft sound of impact, the two black icicles changed direction slightly. The black icicle from before adjusted its course again, still aiming for Yu Taizong's heart. As for the black icicle behind it, it turned around and flew downwards, aiming directly at Chu Hongding, who was kneeling on the ground and screaming in pain. If it had succeeded, Bing Wuqing's final attack would have resulted in a double kill. To be honest, even Bing Wuqing herself did not expect that her final attack would have such a precise effect. This was merely the most ideal situation that existed in her heart. Just as Chu Hongding was about to lose his life to the black icicle, another snow-white longsword stabbed diagonally and deflected the lethal black icicle. At the same time, the black icicle sped up again and knocked away the other icicle that had been aimed at Yu Taizong. If Bing Wuqing had fallen just like that, and her final attack had been countered in such a manner, surely she would have been extremely dissatisfied? Fortunately, he was completely unscathed, and had even managed to snatch Yu Taizong's shattered ice sword with inexplicable ease. Seeing Yu Taizong fall flat on his back on the ground, and the shattered ice sword in his hand falling into Bing Wuqing's hand, everyone was dumbfounded at the sight. Especially Chu Hongding, who had just escaped death. He was still wondering if Yu Taizong had been so frightened by the black icicle that his heart had stopped beating. Otherwise, the icicle would have touched him. Speaking of which, this Bing Wuqing was really frightening. She almost scared me to death. Only Xue Jianfeng, who had saved Chu Hongding, looked as if he had eaten *T. He was cursing himself for being an idiot. How could he show off his abilities when Lin Yi was around? Why did he suddenly rush over like an idiot? Yu Taizong's death from falling was obviously due to Lin Yi's secret attack. It was all because of that idiot Yu Taizong. Xue Jianfeng had seen that Yu Taizong was bullying Bing Wuqing, So he had wanted to join forces with Yu Taizong to get rid of Bing Wuching before Lin Yi could react. However, he had not expected the situation to change so quickly. He had only been slightly slower, but he did not even have the chance to intervene in the battle. He could only subconsciously save Chu Hongding's life. If possible, Xue Jianfeng felt that he should immediately return the favor of saving his life, lest he offended Lin Yi. The corners of Lin Yi's mouth curled into a playful smile. He clapped his hands lightly and said, "Good sword. What a good sword." Xue Jianfeng revealed an awkward smile and said, "Boss Lin Yi really has a good eye. This is one of the 3 best swords in the Snow Sword School. If Boss Lin Yi likes it, you can take it and play with it." After he finished speaking, Xue Jianfeng respectfully held the sword with both hands and lowered his head to present it to Lin Yi. "Oh, you heard wrong. I did not say that the sword is good, but that you are a cheap person," Lin Yi said indifferently. He casually took the sword from Xue Jianfeng's hand and lightly flicked the blade. Hearing the crisp sound of the sword, he nodded and said, "Since you are so sincere, and this sword is not bad, I will reluctantly accept it." "What the hell? Don't be like this, okay?" Xue Jianfeng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. "After all this time, you were saying that I am a cheap person? And I even rushed to present the sword to you. So cheap? Speaking of which, can you not force yourself? Why don't you return it to me? Don't think that I will let it go just because you gave me a sword. Were you trying to ruin my business just now?" Lin Yi did not look at Xue Jianfeng, but only stared at the snow-white blade and lightly stroked it as he spoke indifferently. Xue Jianfeng's expression turned serious. With a putong sound, he instantly knelt on the ground and said in an extremely sincere tone, "Boss Lin Yi, I was wrong this time. This junior has just advanced to the nascent soul paragon stage, and I wanted to try out a move with my cheap hands. I have no evil intentions. Of course, this junior's strength is nothing in senior's eyes. Please don't kill this junior, okay?" Lin Yi did not expect Xue Jianfeng to be so decisive, directly kneeling down just like that. This immediately made him think of a fellow who had been entangled with him from the secular world all the way to the heaven stage island. After not seeing him for a long time, he was starting to miss Kong Ming Ming. When he returned to the heaven stage island, he would definitely teach him a good lesson first. Seeing the expectant look in Xue Jianfeng's eyes, Lin Yi pinched his chin and looked up at the ceiling at a 45-degree angle. He said, "That chew something just now." He kowtowed so hard, but the green bricks on the ground did not break. "Looks like they are quite thick. The quality of these bricks is not bad. I wonder where you bought them?" Without saying a word, Xue Jianfeng directly kowtowed 3 times. Then, without changing his expression, he said with a smile, "Boss Lin Yi, these green bricks are actually very sturdy. They only broke when I used so much force. If you like them, I can help you buy some." Bing Wuqing glanced at Xue Jianfeng and slightly turned her head away expressionlessly, as if she did not know him at all. This was such a disgrace to the Snow Sword School. Unfortunately, Xue Jianfeng happened to see Bing Wuqing's expression. This silent disdain from his sworn enemy almost made Xue Jianfeng spit out blood. He thought to himself, "Bing Wuqing, just you wait, I finally know you. I don't believe that Lin Yi will always follow you. When you're alone, you'll see how I'll deal with you." Chu Hongding, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground, was completely dumbfounded. He hugged his broken finger and even forgot to cry out in pain. Everything had happened too quickly in such a short period of time. He needed some time to sort it out. 2 nascent soul cultivators at the peak of the early stage and Chu Hongding, who was at the early stage of the nascent soul realm, had to deal with a nascent soul cultivator at the peak of the early stage and a foundation establishment cultivator at the peak of the early stage. Chu Hongding, who was at the early stage of the nascent soul realm, did not do anything, but the 2 nascent soul cultivators at the peak of the early stage were already lying flat on the ground and kneeling down. He, who was at the early stage of the nascent soul realm, was still fine. He did not lie flat on the ground or kneel down. He just sat paralyzed on the ground with a broken finger. What on earth was going on? However, Chu Hongding was not stupid. On the contrary, he was quite intelligent. At least, he could tell that the current situation seemed to be led by Lin Yi. Chapter 5486. As he spoke, Chu Hongding secretly looked at Xue Jianfeng in disdain. He thought to himself, this spineless guy. He's a consummate nascent soul expert, kneeling down so easily. He's not even as good as me. At least I didn't kneel. Lin Yi turned to look at Chu Hongding and said with a faint smile, who's meddling in your Chu family's affairs? You're obviously meddling in my own affairs. Let's talk about my crab's inner core first. Inner core? Chu Hongding really wanted to slap himself a few times. How could he have forgotten about this? He had always thought that the inner core was his. He had told so many lies that even he himself had believed them. Even though Chu Tianlu had already proven that the inner core wasn't his, he still hadn't changed his mind. After all, he had 2 consummate nascent soul experts and 1 early-stage nascent soul expert. Chu Hongding felt that everything was under his control. How could he still think that something that was in his hands wouldn't be his? If he'd known this would happen, he would have used the elixir recipe to trade for it, and none of this would have happened. Chu Hongding was depressed, but Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with him. The inner core was just an excuse. Who would really care about it? He handed the sword to Bing Wuqing and said, this sword isn't bad. There's ice soul on it. You can have it. Thank you, Boss Lin Yi. Xue Jianfeng showed a rare smile. The Ice Soul Sword was one of the 3 famous swords of the Snow Sword School, and so was the Shattered Ice Sword. However, the Ice Soul Sword was more suitable for Bing Wuqing. By the way, Boss Lin Yi, this Shattered Ice Sword is very suitable for Cold's Shattered Ice physique. Do you want me to bring it back to her, or do you want to give it to her next time? With the Ice Soul Sword, the Ice Shattering Sword was naturally useless. Bing Wuqing was also very thoughtful, and immediately thought of Lung Lung's ice-shattering physique. After all, in Bing Wuqing's eyes, Lung Lung was not only Lin Yi's woman, but also a member of the Snow Sword faction. Lin Yi waved his hand nonchalantly and said, if it suits Cold, I'll bring it to her. I don't know when I'll be able to go find her. After that, Lin Yi said to Chu Hongding, hey, what do you say? Chu Hongding braced himself and said, yes, the inner core is yours, so you can interfere. But Bing Wuqing isn't the owner of the inner core, right? He shouldn't interfere in our Chu clan's affairs, right? Bing Wuqing cast a glance at Yu Taicong and Xue Jianfeng, who were lying and kneeling on the ground, and said coldly, I'm from the Snow Sword faction. It meant that Yu Taicong and Xue Jianfeng were both from the Snow Sword School. Since they had interfered, as members of the Snow Sword School, they had to get involved to the end. Chu Hongding didn't know what to say. He could tell that Bing Wuqing didn't talk much, but when she did, she wasn't easy to deal with either. The phrase concise and shocking was used to describe people like Bing Wuqing. Chu Yuntian sighed softly. No matter what, today was his birthday, and this was the Chu clan's territory. Chu Hongding's forced abdication was despicable, but Chu Hongding's predicament was equivalent to a slap in the face for the Chu clan. Therefore, as the former clan leader, he had no choice but to step forward and clean up the mess. Everyone, today is my birthday. It's rare that so many distinguished guests are willing to do me the honor. Why don't you take a seat and continue with the banquet? Chu Yuntian politely bowed to Lin Yi and Xue Jianfeng, then invited the people outside the hall. As for the mess in the hall caused by the short battle earlier, Chu Yuntian completely ignored it. The people outside the hall immediately said politely, No, we've already eaten our fill. We'll take our leave now. Although they hadn't eaten much of the food, they had seen the grand internal strife within the clan, the drama of the abdication, and the chaotic battle between the nascent soul experts. No matter what, it was worth the price of the ticket. The only question was, how did Yu Taicong end up so suddenly? It was obvious that Bing Wuqing was about to be defeated, but suddenly, there was a shocking reversal. Apart from Xue Jianfeng, no one else present could tell what was going on. Now that the other party was obviously going to settle the clan's affairs, were they really not going to be sensible enough to go in and set up the overturned tables and chairs, and continue to pick up the bowls and continue eating? Please forgive me if I've neglected you. Chu Yuntian forced a smile and greeted them one by one. It was only after he had sent off most of the people that his face darkened. Apart from the Chu clan, the only ones left behind were Lin Yi, Bing Wuqing, Xue Jianfeng, Yu Taicong, and Yi Qingqing and Duanmuyu from Yiling's sect. Lin Yi smiled at Duanmuyu and gave her a look, indicating for her to continue watching the show. Then, he turned to Chu Yuntian and said, "All right, I'll hold a meeting for you now to discuss the issue of the Chu clan's traitor." As soon as the words left his mouth, Lin Yi suddenly felt that the scene was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Meanwhile, Duanmuyu and Yi Qingqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't this what Lin Yi had said in Yiling's sect last time? It was just that Yiling's sect had changed to Chu clan. Lin Yi felt that it was somewhat familiar. It was probably because Yi Qingqing and Duanmuyu were beside him. Traitor? Who are you calling a traitor? Before Chu Yuntian could speak, Chu Hongding immediately jumped up. If there was a traitor, it was naturally him, Chu Hongding. It couldn't be Chu Tianlu, could it? Seeing how forceful Lin Yi was, if his identity as a traitor was confirmed, he didn't need to think to know what would happen. Thus, Chu Hongding had to fight for it. This was also why he had always thought that Yu Taitsong had acted on his own. Regardless of whether he had been scared to death or suddenly had an illness, it wasn't Lin Yi who had done it. If Chu Hongding and Xue Jianfeng understood this, they probably wouldn't dare to jump out and refute it. Lin Yi laughed coldly and mocked mercilessly. "Do you think that apart from you, who has only been the clan head for a few minutes, there's someone else worthy of the glorious title of traitor? You're talking nonsense. I, Chu Hongding, am wholeheartedly working for the Chu clan. I'm upright and have a clear conscience." Chu Hongding was truly a skilled actor. His expression was quite on point. Lin Yi pointed at Xue Jianfeng and said, "Since you've sided with Xue Jianfeng, you're naturally a traitor. Are you still going to deny it?" Yi Qingqing's expression was strange. He felt as if he had fallen into a memory. "Xue Jianfeng, why don't you tell us? What's going on with this Chu Hongding?" Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to waste words with Chu Hongding. There was a ready-made Xue Jianfeng kneeling beside him. It would be a waste not to drag him out. Xue Jianfeng's cheeks were streaming with tears. "You finally remember that I'm kneeling here? Can't you let me stand up first?" Chapter 5487. A Genius in 1 Second Remembers Love? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Boss Lin Yi, this Chu Hongding is my new little brother. He's here to help me control the Chu family. After he becomes the family head, all of the Chu family's resources will be mine to use. Xue Jianfeng gritted his teeth, but he could only play along with Lin Yi's questions. He couldn't say the name of the core. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't intend to expose him, Xue Jianfeng was quite satisfied. Lin Yi shrugged. "Chu Hongding, do you have anything else to say? Or are you prepared to disregard Xue Jianfeng as your boss?" Chu Hongding's face flushed red. No matter how cunning he was and how thick-skinned he was, he didn't dare to refute Xue Jianfeng's words. However, Chu Hongding had long since cursed Xue Jianfeng in his heart. He also cursed all of Xue Jianfeng's direct female relatives. It's very clear. Chu Hongding is a traitor to the Chu family. No objections? Lin Yi shrugged and looked at Chu Yuntian. Chu Yuntian had nothing to say. Chu Hongding was the one who had forced him to abdicate, but Chu Hongding was still Chu Yuntian's son, and a nascent soul cultivator at that. Together with Chu Yuntian himself, it was enough for the Chu clan to rise again. Lin Yi didn't care what Chu Yuntian was thinking. He pulled Chu Tianlu over. From today onwards, Chu Hongding's position as the head of the house is gone. Old Chu, since you're already the grand elder, you don't have to work too hard. Let Chu Tianlu be the young head of the house, and he'll take over everything. With Chu Tianlu's strength, being the family head wasn't enough to convince everyone. Being the young family head didn't matter. In any case, the authority was in Chu Tianlu's hands. Titles weren't important. Chu Hongding saw that his years of painstaking planning was going to waste. He immediately roared in agitation. "I don't agree. Chu Tianlu can't be the young family head. Even if I can't be the family head, there's still Tianhao. Let Tianhao marry Yiling's sect's Duanmuyu, and he can be the young family head." Before he could finish, Chu Hongding also collapsed on his back. He was lying shoulder to shoulder with Yu Taidong. Who else disagrees? Lin Yi's cold gaze swept across the Chu clan. Everyone, including Chu Yuntian, could not help but shiver. At this time, if they still could not see that Yu Taitsong's death was caused by Lin Yi, then they might as well just die. The only question was that Lin Yi didn't even move his fingers. How did he deal with a master at the peak of the Yuanying stage and an early Yuanying stage? Fear comes from the unknown. Because no one knew what Lin Yi was capable of, they were even more in awe of Lin Yi. In the face of Lin Yi's overbearing question, no one dared to speak. Xue Jianfeng secretly rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, he saw the opportunity early. Otherwise, he would have been the one lying on the ground. This brat, Lin Yi, is indeed not an existence that this young master can provoke right now. I can only plot against him in secret and not confront him head-on. Senior Lin, Junior's strength is too low. Amidst everyone's silence, only Chu Tianlu stammered. Why don't Junior's grandfather be the family head? Senior Lin, please take back that Yuanying stage sea crab's inner core. As for our Chu clan's pill recipes, Junior will give them all to Senior Lin. Hearing Chu Tianlu say this, Chu Yuntian's mood suddenly became a bit better. No matter what was said, Chu Tianlu was still his grandson. Regardless of whether Chu Tianlu's words were sincere or not, Chu Yuntian remembered them in his heart. What an honest child. Lin Yi swept his gaze over Chu Tianlu indifferently, then ignored him. He continued speaking to the Chu clan. Chu Tianlu will be the Chu clan's young family head and take charge of the Chu clan's affairs. Who agrees? Who objects? It wasn't a question, but rather a certainty that forced the Chu clan to immediately make a choice. As for how to choose, Chu Hengding, who was lying on the ground, clearly didn't have any allies. Duanmu Yu watched as Lin Yi stood so casually in the hall, yet his body was filled with an unquestionable might. He immediately felt that the current Lin Yi, compared to before, was even more outstanding. I agree. Boss Lin Yi's decision is truly too wise. Unexpectedly, as soon as Lin Yi finished speaking, the first to jump out in agreement was actually Xue Jianfeng. Chu Yuntian suspected that this fellow had knelt for too long and was taking the opportunity to jump up and move around a bit. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and said impatiently, "What does this have to do with you?" Of course it has to do with me. At such an important moment, how can I not cheer for Boss Lin Yi? Xue Jianfeng rubbed his hands together and smiled flatteringly. It was rare for him to be so reckless. Hey, did you not hear Boss Lin Yi's order? Young Master Chu Tianlu is such a suitable candidate. Does your Chu clan have any objections? Xue Jianfeng turned around. His flattering smile immediately disappeared without a trace, replaced by a fierce and threatening expression. His great circle nascent soul aura also pressed over. This old man agrees. Chu Yuntian sighed softly and nodded in agreement. Then, Chu Yunting, the great elder, also agreed. With the two big shots of the Chu clan agreeing, this matter was settled. In truth, Chu Yuntian wasn't pressured by Xue Jianfeng. Rather, he felt that it wasn't too bad to have Chu Tianlu as young master. At the very least, Chu Tianlu had Lin Yi's support. Putting aside Lin Yi's strength, just the Azure Cloud School behind him was a considerable help. Xue Jianfeng turned around and put on a smiling face. Boss Lin Yi, look, this is young Master Chu's big day. Leaving two dead people here is too much of a wet blanket. Let me handle them first, then come back to congratulate young Master Chu. Without waiting for Lin Yi's reply, Xue Jianfeng picked up Yu Taitsong from the ground and gave Chu Tianhao a meaningful glance, indicating for him to quickly carry his father's corpse. Chu Tianhao had long been scared out of his wits by the series of changes. He didn't know how to react. When he saw Xue Jianfeng's glance, he was originally muddle-headed and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he had an idea. Imitating Xue Jianfeng, he lowered his head and picked up Chu Hengding, then turned around and walked out. Lin Yi clearly saw through Xue Jianfeng's careful thoughts, but he didn't intend to stop him. Xue Jianfeng wasn't a worry. Leaving him alive would make it easier to deal with the core. At least, with Xue Jianfeng around, Lin Yi wasn't afraid of not being able to find clues about the core. Boss Lin Yi, do we need to chase after him? Bing Wuqing asked in a low voice. Although it seemed that Lin Yi was letting Xue Jianfeng go, he didn't say anything after all. Bing Wuqing still had to ask. Chapter 5488. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Yu Taitsong and Chu Hengding's primordial spirits were restrained by Lin Yi's soul-hooking hand. If Shui Jianfeng hadn't taken them away, perhaps Lin Yi could have released their primordial spirits. But now, even if Lin Yi released his primordial spirits, without a physical body nearby, it would be useless. Love, go small, say neck without a soul. A physical body would soon truly die. This was different from Lin Yi's main body. He used his soul projection method, which was fundamentally different from forceful imprisonment. Otherwise, Lin Yi's physical body on Heaven Stage Island would have already died. He turned his head to look at everyone in the Chu family and said, "Since all of you have agreed to let Chu Tianlu be the young patriarch, then everything in the Chu family will be decided by him in the future. Is that all right?" Of course, there was nothing wrong with the Chu clan. Even if there was something wrong with them, they wouldn't dare say it out loud. Even though Lin Yi hadn't revealed any bloody and brutal methods, the pressure he exuded was even stronger than before. By now, even if Chu Tianlu didn't want to, he had no choice. However, as if this one-track-minded guy had suddenly been enlightened, he cupped his fists at Lin Yi and said, "Boss Lin Yi, please accept me as your little brother. Otherwise, I won't dare to take over as the Chu family's young patriarch." Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. "Are you threatening me?" Chu Tianlu immediately jumped in fright. He immediately waved his hand and said, "How is that possible? How would I dare? Since Senior feels that this Junior is unworthy, then forget it." Lin Yi pondered for a moment and said, "Forget it? It's quite annoying to always listen to seniors and juniors. I'll take you in as my little brother." In any case, Lin Yi had a lot of underlings. It wouldn't make a difference if he lost one. Moreover, Lin Yi didn't dislike Chu Tianlu. Previously, he had thought of accepting this underling. Since Chu Tianlu had brought it up himself, he'd just go with the flow and agree. Chu Tianlu was overjoyed. He cupped his fist again and said, "Thank you very much, Boss Lin Yi." Chu Yuntian was actually very happy about Chu Tianlu's sudden move. Having Chu Tianlu acknowledge Lin Yi as his boss was clearly in line with the Chu clan's interests. No matter what, it couldn't be considered a bad thing. Lin Yi pointed at Bing Wuqing and said, "Don't call her Senior Bing anymore. Just call her Brother Bing or Brother Wuqing." Chu Tianlu hurriedly called out respectfully, "Brother Wuqing, you have a good eye." Bing Wuqing didn't have a smile on her face. She only spoke coolly and ignored Chu Tianlu. Lin Yi turned to look at Duan Muyu and said to Chu Tianlu, "That's Duan Muyu from Yiling's sect." Chu Tianlu understood tacitly and immediately went forward to greet her with a smile. He said, "Sister-in-law, I didn't know about your situation before. Now that I know, the marriage alliance between the Chu clan and Yiling sect will be annulled. I hope that our Chu clan and Yiling sect will still be allies in the future." Duan Muyu was stunned at first, and then her face turned slightly red. She stole a glance at Lin Yi. Speaking of Chu Tianlu's big brother, other than this one whom she had just acknowledged, there was no one else, right? Lin Yi thought to himself that this fellow was a little too straightforward, but he actually had some brains. At least he had some sense in handling this matter. Love, go little, say Netku however. While Duan Muyu understood, Chu Yuntian didn't. He had been wholeheartedly plotting to unite the Chu clan and Yiling's sect through marriage in order to achieve the Chu clan's rise. How could he let Chu Tianlu cancel it just like that? No, I don't agree. Tianlu, what nonsense are you talking about? Sect Master Yi, you mustn't listen to him. The marriage alliance between the Chu clan and Yiling's sect must go through. Chu Yuntian didn't understand. The sister-in-law that Chu Tianlu spoke of was relative to Lin Yi. He was even curious as to where Chu Tianlu, the eldest young master of the Chu clan, had come from. Could it be an illegitimate child of Chu Tianlu's deceased father? It had to be said that this old man Chu Yuntian's imagination was quite wild. Fortunately, Chu Tianlu didn't know what he was thinking. Otherwise, he would really go to his father's grave and kowtow to apologize. This old man had been implicated. Chu Tianlu sternly said, "Grandfather, I'm serious. The marriage alliance between the Chu clan and Yiling sect must be annulled. There's absolutely no possibility of it continuing." Nonsense. This is a great opportunity for our Chu clan to rise. I definitely won't allow you to ruin this opportunity. Chu Yuntian was burning with rage as he loudly berated Chu Tianlu. Grandfather, I'm in charge of the Chu clan's matters now. Chu Tianlu glanced at Lin Yi. Although he didn't want to contradict Chu Yuntian, he had no choice but to continue acting tough. Chu Yuntian's hair and beard stood on end. He shook his head and said, "No matter what, the marriage alliance cannot be stopped. Although your second uncle's heart isn't in the right place, he was still a nascent soul cultivator of our Chu clan. Yet, he died because of you. Now, you're rejecting the marriage alliance with Yiling's sect. Do you really want to destroy the Chu clan and watch as the Chu clan declines?" Chu Tianlu smiled bitterly. He approached Chu Yuntian and said in an extremely low voice, "Grandfather, if I continue the marriage alliance with Yiling's sect, I'll really be destroying the Chu clan. Not only the Chu clan, but Yiling's sect will probably be doomed as well." Chu Yuntian immediately quivered, and his mind became completely clear. It was very obvious that Chu Tianlu's elder brother was definitely not some damned illegitimate elder brother. Instead, it was Lin Yi, who was standing to the side and looking at Chu Yuntian with a faint smile. When he thought about how Lin Yi had specifically pointed out Yiling's sect's Duanmuyu, Chu Yuntian immediately cursed himself in his heart for being muddle-headed. It was such an obvious hint, yet even a silly kid like Tianlu understood it. Why was he the one who was confused instead? After thinking it through, Chu Yuntian immediately said to Chu Tianlu sternly, "Child, why won't you listen? It's imperative that the Chu clan and Yiling's sect form an alliance through marriage. However, you're definitely not worthy of a genius like Miss Duanmu. I think only your eldest brother, Senior Lin, is the most suitable candidate." Huh. Chu Tianlu was dumbfounded. After all, he was an honest child. He really couldn't understand Chu Yuntian's shamelessness. "But grandfather, eldest brother Lin Yi isn't a member of our Chu clan." Chu Yuntian had been waiting for this sentence. He immediately said righteously, "How is he not a member of our Chu clan? Since you've acknowledged him as your eldest brother, he's naturally the eldest brother of our Chu clan. Isn't it normal for him to represent our Chu clan with full authority? Is that even possible?" Chu Tianlu looked at Chu Yuntian in a daze, then turned to look at Lin Yi, hoping to get some hints from Lin Yi. Lin Yi coughed dryly and said plainly, "I won't interfere in your Chu clan's matters." Chu Yuntian secretly despised him. He thought to himself, "Why didn't you say earlier that you wouldn't interfere in the Chu clan's matters? Now you're putting on an act." But since Lin Yi had put it that way, Chu Yuntian had no choice but to go with the flow. Since Senior Lin doesn't represent House Chu's intentions, then it's a shame that the marriage proposal between House Chu and Yiling's sect is terminated. School Beauty's bodyguard was released. Please add Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urine22. All kinds of latest news, autographed books, and events are being sent non-stop. Chapter 5489. Genius in a Second. Remember to go? To provide you with exciting novels to read. Yi Qingcheng didn't have any objections. When he heard what Chu Yuntian said, he immediately agreed. Our Yiling's sect has no objections. Although the Chu family and Yiling's sect aren't connected by marriage, the alliance between our two sects won't change. We still need to continue supporting each other in the future. It had to be said that Yi Qingcheng's mind worked very quickly, and he saw things very clearly. Since Duanmuyu and Lin Yi had an ambiguous relationship, and Lin Yi was such a powerful existence, Yiling's sect might as well be tied to Lin Yi's chariot instead of being connected by marriage with the Chu family. As for the Chu family, they were the ones who proposed to cancel the marriage anyway. Yiling's sect didn't know them anything, but it was necessary to continue maintaining their relationship. After all, they were the family of Lin Yi's little brother. With this relationship, the Chu family would rise sooner or later. Sect leader Yi is so righteous. We must get closer from now on. Chu Yuntian laughed loudly. No one knew if he was really that happy. Yi Qingcheng and Chu Yuntian flattered each other for a while, and the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. Only Lin Yi and Bing Wuqing were cold and didn't seem to have any intention of joining in. Slowly, the two of them stopped, feeling a little awkward. After ending the meaningless conversation with Chu Yuntian, Yi Qingcheng said in a voice that only Duanmuyu could hear, "Xiaoyu, why didn't you tell the sect that you and Lin Yi are so close? If we knew that the two of you had such a relationship, why would our Yi Ling sect need to arrange a marriage with the Chu family? With the support of Lin Yi. No, Elder Lin. It would be a piece of cake for our Yi Ling sect to regain our former glory. Duanmu Yu blushed slightly. No, sect leader, I was just an ordinary friend with Lin Yi in the past. We were like brothers. Perhaps we were closer than brothers, but it's not what you think. That's enough. You're really muddle-headed. Yi Qingqing looked at Duanmu Yu with an exasperated expression, but there was no blame in his tone. Instead, he was like a doting parent. Since you have such a good relationship with Elder Lin, you should make good use of it. As long as Elder Lin can help you reach nascent soul, the status of our Yi Ling sect can be preserved. We don't need to talk about other developments in the future. Duanmu Yu didn't respond. She naturally knew how powerful Lin Yi was. What she didn't know was that Lin Yi was so powerful that a top expert at perfected nascent soul stage couldn't even last one move against Lin Yi. The key was that no one could see what was going on with this move. Duanmu Yu was quite clear about what Yi Qingqing said and his plan just now, but she instinctively resisted it. Being able to improve one's strength was the dream of every cultivator. However, Duanmu Yu didn't want to rely on her relationship with Lin Yi to ask Lin Yi to help her improve her strength. This made Duanmu Yu feel that she was using Lin Yi. She felt very uncomfortable no matter how she thought about it. Yi Qingqing didn't know what Duanmu Yu was thinking. He continued to say in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Xiao Yu, you will find an opportunity to follow Lin Yi in the future. With his ability, it will definitely not be a problem to help you improve to the nascent soul stage." Sect Master, why are you so sure that if I follow Lin Yi, he will definitely help me to improve to the nascent soul stage? Do you think that by following Lin Yi, the speed of cultivation will increase a lot? Duanmu Yu looked at Yi Qingqing with some confusion. Lin Yi had helped her break through the foundation establishment stage and advance to the gold core stage, but that was only because of the medicinal pills in Lin Yi's hands. Needless to say, the medicinal pills were precious. Duanmu Yu didn't think that Lin Yi had enough medicinal pills to help her break through to the nascent soul stage. Yi Qingqing smiled mysteriously and said, "If it was someone else, they might think the same as you and think that their cultivation speed will be faster by Senior Lin's side. However, I am sure that Senior Lin definitely has a way to quickly improve the strength of others. After the last incident, I specially went to inquire about it." "What did you inquire about? Is it about Lin Yi?" Duanmu Yu wasn't too surprised. After all, Lin Yi had caused quite a commotion in Yi Ling's sect last time. It wasn't strange for Yi Qingqing to inquire about it afterwards. It's not really asking about Senior Lin. Yi Qingqing glanced at Lin Yi guiltily. If Lin Yi heard that he had asked about him behind his back, who knew what the consequences would be? Fortunately, Lin Yi was talking to the people of the Chu family and didn't seem to notice them. Moreover, Yi Qingqing believed that he and Duanmu Yu's voices were soft enough, so it shouldn't attract Lin Yi's attention. "Actually, I went to inquire about the Snow Sword sect and found some strange things." Yi Qingqing turned around and continued to explain in a low voice, "Because Xue Jianfeng wanted to dip his fingers into our Yi Ling sect, I specially went to investigate the Snow Sword sect. I found that the Snow Sword sect suddenly had 3 nascent soul-old monsters. Among them, the strangest one is Xue Jianfeng." Duanmu Yu nodded. She was the clearest about Xue Jianfeng's previous strength. After all, they had gone to the secular world together for training. In just a few months, he went from a disciple with potential at the foundation establishment stage to a top-notch expert at the nascent soul perfected stage. In the words of the secular world, this speed was like riding a rocket. Saying that he was strange was already an understatement. I'm not sure what kind of fortuitous encounter Xue Jianfeng had. However, apart from this strange Xue Jianfeng, there was another person who suddenly attained the nascent soul realm, and that was Bing Wuqing. At this point, Yi Qingqing could not help but sneak a glance at Bing Wuqing. His eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Although Bing Wuqing had always been known as a genius, she had always been a genius at the early golden elixir stage. There was still a considerable gap between her and Yi Qingqing. However, Bing Wuqing had now become an expert at the peak of the early nascent soul realm. She had directly become someone that Yi Qingqing had to look up to. The world was truly unpredictable. Let's not talk about Shui Jianfeng. However, I dare to conclude that Bing Wuqing's improvement definitely has something to do with Senior Lin Yi. Otherwise, no matter how much of a genius Bing Wuqing is and how shocking her cultivation speed is, she would at most be at the mid-golden elixir stage. She would not even be able to defeat me, let alone Yu Taicong, who is at the nascent soul-perfected stage. That's why I say that if you follow Lin Yi, you will definitely be able to attain the nascent soul realm quickly. Yi Qingqing finally finished explaining. If possible, he would rather follow Lin Yi himself in exchange for a chance to attain the nascent soul realm. The mobile game Schoolbell's Bodyguard is hot. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urin22 for the latest news, autographed books, and activities. Chapter 5490. Unfortunately, Lin Yi obviously didn't like Yi Qingqing, unless he was really a beautiful woman. Moreover, he was clearly too old to be his little brother. He even regretted not using the everlasting face technique to stop his appearance at the moment he broke through to the heaven stage in order to become the head of the sect. Now, if he followed behind Lin Yi and went out saying that he was Lin Yi's little brother, wouldn't it scare people to death? It wouldn't be harmonious either. On the other side, Lin Yi's instructions to Chu Tianlu were more or less complete. Lin Yi didn't take back the crab's inner core, but still gave it to Chu Tianlu, asking him to settle the Chu clan's affairs first. Chu Tianlu couldn't refuse, and could only accept the crab's inner core. He promised to deliver the Chu clan's pill recipe to Lin Yi as soon as possible. Whether it was to complete the transaction of the inner core or as a little brother's filial piety to the boss, these were all necessary. Lin Yi didn't act pretentious. After nodding in agreement, he turned around and walked towards Duan Muyu. Although Yi Qingqing and Duan Muyu spoke softly, with the characteristics of Lin Yi's primordial spirit, as long as he was willing, the entire Chu clan was under the surveillance of his divine sense. Therefore, even if Lin Yi didn't deliberately listen to their conversation, he could still clearly understand every word they said. Duan Muyu, let them handle the matters here. I have something to talk to you about. Lin Yi looked at Duan Muyu with a slightly awkward expression. After all, their relationship hadn't been so obvious before. Duan Muyu didn't expect that Lin Yi would suddenly look for him. He immediately blushed and his heart raced. He lowered his head slightly, thinking of what to do, at a loss. Yi Qingqing was overjoyed. This was a good opportunity. Seeing that Duan Muyu was still a little hesitant, he hurriedly pushed Duan Muyu's arm and said, "Since Senior Lin is looking for you, you should go with him. This place is too messy, and it's not a good place to talk. Young Master Chu, do you think we should arrange a quiet room for Senior Lin and the others to talk?" Yi Qingqing's last sentence was completely directed at Chu Tianlu. He was afraid that this rash young Master Chu wouldn't understand, so he didn't even try to be subtle. He was just short of directly saying that he wanted to send Lin Yi and Duan Muyu to the bridal room. Duan Muyu's face turned redder. She was originally a straightforward woman. Just as she said, she and Lin Yi were like brothers at first, but she didn't know when she didn't want to continue being Lin Yi's brother. Lin Yi was also a little embarrassed, but he didn't show it on his face. He still said calmly, "Thank you for your concern, sect leader Yi. There's no need to trouble Heaven's Road. He needs to deal with the things here. Duan Muyu and I will leave first." "Not at all, not at all. Senior Lin, please go ahead. You guys take your time to chat." Seeing that Lin Yi was so polite, Yi Qingqing was extremely happy. He thought that his decision was very wise. It seemed that there was hope for the revival of the Yiling sect. Lin Yi didn't say anything more. He called Duan Muyu out of the hall. Not far from the hall, there was a study used for receiving guests. Although Lin Yi had never been there, he had already identified this place with his divine sense. The two entered the study. They were very satisfied with the elegant and quiet layout. Duan Muyu didn't speak to Lin Yi. She sat down gracefully by the tea table and began to boil water in a familiar manner. She prepared to make tea for Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't stand on ceremony. He sat down quietly opposite Duan Muyu and admired her smooth and elegant movements. After a while, the water boiled. Duan Muyu washed the tea and poured a cup of water for Lin Yi. She placed it in front of Lin Yi. The faint fragrance of the tea spread out slowly, making Lin Yi feel refreshed. In terms of the tea ceremony, Lin Yi believed that he couldn't compare to Duan Muyu. When Lin Yi picked up the tea and smelled the fragrance, Duan Muyu gathered her long dress, got up, and walked to the side. She sat down in front of the zither table. She raised her arm gently and her fingers danced. The tinkling sound of the zither was like pearls falling on a jade plate, or like a clear spring in a valley, quietly flowing in the study. Although she didn't say a word, Lin Yi naturally knew that this was Duan Muyu's way of expressing her feelings to him again. Unfortunately, Lin Yi really didn't have much research in this area. Such an elegant thing was used on Lin Yi. It was really not wrong to say that she was playing the lute to a cow. Listening to the clear and melodious sound of the zither, Lin Yi was thinking about how to improve Duan Muyu's strength. Now Duan Muyu was only at the peak of the early Jedon stage. If she wanted to reach the Yuanying stage, she needed at least 5 to 6 golden elixirs and 1 Yuanying golden elixirs. Yuanying golden elixirs were not a problem. Lin Yi still had a lot of them, but the golden elixirs were almost used up. Before, Lin Yi also had a lot of golden elixirs in his hands, but the strength level of the ancient small Jianghu was too low, and the consumption of golden elixirs was relatively fast. Lin Yi didn't care about this kind of elixir, so now, it was a little difficult to improve Duan Muyu's strength all at once. On the Heaven Stage Island, the golden elixirs were no longer of much use to Lin Yi. At most, he could refine some for sale, so he already had all the stock with him. If he wanted to refine more, there were auxiliary elixirs, but the main materials might not be found in a short time. With Duan Muyu's strength, if he directly took the Yuanying golden elixirs, he would definitely explode and die. So this matter, Lin Yi still had to think about it carefully. Duan Muyu's zither sound was soothing and melodious, which made people feel relaxed. However, Lin Yi was thinking about improving Duan Muyu's level and could not appreciate the essence of it at all. Without enough golden elixirs, Lin Yi couldn't quickly improve Duan Muyu's level. And not only Duan Muyu, Lin Yi was also extremely worried after seeing the strength of Xue Jianfeng and Yu Taicang. In a short period of time, the center was already able to produce masters of the Yuanying Great Perfection in batches. Even if Xue Jianfeng, who was forcibly promoted to the Yuanying Great Perfection, was weaker than the ordinary Yuanying Great Perfection, but they had many people. In the face of the aggressive development speed of the center, Lin Yi clearly felt the pressure on him, so improving Duan Muyu's strength was only the first step. In the future, he must cultivate enough masters to fight against the increasingly powerful center. If he could go back to the Heaven Stage Island, refining the golden elixirs would not be a problem at all, but it would be meaningless to refine them after going back. What's more, it was uncertain whether he could carry out the second primordial spirit projection in a short time, so he naturally couldn't go back. The only way was to find a way to refine the golden elixirs here. Chapter 5491. Lin Yi, what's wrong with you? Do you think my zither playing is too clumsy? Duan Muyu couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She wanted to show off in front of Lin Yi. It would be bad if she made a fool of herself. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. How is that possible? Your level of zither playing is quite high. I'm just thinking about something. Duan Muyu's heart moved, and she thought to herself, is he thinking about the matter between us? If this is the case, what does Lin Yi mean by frowning? For a moment, Duan Muyu suddenly became a little worried. She guessed that Lin Yi didn't have any feelings for her. Lin Yi didn't know that Duan Muyu's heart was full of knots at this moment. After thinking for a while, he took out the last 2 golden cores and handed them to Duan Muyu. I only have these 2 golden cores here. If you want to promote to the nascent soul stage, you still need a few more. But it doesn't matter. You can use these 2 to improve your strength first. I will think of a way in the future. It turns out that you were thinking about helping me improve my strength. Duan Muyu felt a little sweet in her heart. She immediately took the 2 golden cores, and she didn't mean to be polite to Lin Yi at all. It was not the first time that Lin Yi helped Duan Muyu improve her strength, and Duan Muyu felt that if she was polite to Lin Yi, it would make the 2 of them estranged. It was good now. You can start now. I will guard you. Before Lin Yi finished speaking, he found that Duan Muyu had already taken a golden core, sat down cross-legged, and began to cultivate. Linny shook his head with a smile and said nothing more. He also sat down at the tea table, guarding Duan Muyu while refining the spiritual knowledge fruit that he had swallowed before. In the past few days, Linny had eaten 2 spiritual knowledge fruits, so he had a great understanding of the medicinal properties of the spiritual knowledge fruit. Generally speaking, it doesn't matter if you don't deliberately refine the spiritual knowledge fruit, because its gentle medicinal properties could slowly nourish the spirit for a long time, allowing the spirit to gradually improve. Of course, after taking the spiritual knowledge fruit, if you actively refine it, the medicinal effect would take effect faster. Because of this, Linny ate a spiritual knowledge fruit in public without any scruples. The tumor of the spiritual knowledge fruit was also a time bomb for Lin Yi, but after taking the spiritual knowledge fruit, the tumor of the spiritual knowledge fruit could not be removed immediately. Only by completely refining a spiritual knowledge fruit could one completely remove the tumor of the spiritual knowledge fruit. The two were not far from each other, and they both entered a state of cultivation. However, while Lin Yi was refining the spiritual knowledge fruit, he still paid close attention to Duan Muyu's situation. Fortunately, Duan Muyu's promotion was quite smooth. After all, Lin Yi's golden core was of the best quality. Not to mention a genius like Duan Muyu. As long as it was someone with a decent aptitude, it would be a matter of course for them to improve their cultivation. After breaking through to the middle stage of the Jedon stage, Duan Muyu did not stop cultivating. He did not even stabilize his strength. He directly took the second golden core and rushed to the peak of the middle stage of the Jedon stage in one go. Lin Yi refined the spiritual knowledge fruit step by step to remove the tumor of the spiritual knowledge fruit. This process was much slower than Duan Muyu's promotion, so Lin Yi was not in a hurry. Anyway, even if the medicinal properties of the spiritual knowledge fruit were not refined in one go, it did not matter much. It was just a matter of time. After dawn the next day, Duan Muyu finally completed his cultivation and stabilized his strength at the peak of the middle stage of the Jedon stage. Lin Yi also suspended the progress of removing the tumor of the spiritual knowledge fruit. Lin Yi, thank you. Duan Muyu got up excitedly. Although he felt that saying thank you would seem a little distant, he still thanked Lin Yi sincerely. Lin Yi waved his hand and said with a smile, "What are you thanking me for? It's just 2 medicinal pills. You were able to break through so smoothly, mostly because of your superior talent. If it were an ordinary person, even with medicinal pills, they may not be able to break through one level without spending 10 days. No way." Duan Muyu whispered with a blush on her pretty face. Being able to get Lin Yi's praise seemed to make her happier than advancing 2 levels in a row. Lin Yi was not interested in talking about this topic. Chu Tianlu had arrived outside the study early in the morning, but he did not disturb Lin Yi. Instead, he waited quietly at the door. Obviously, he knew that Lin Yi would know that he appeared at the door. If it was convenient, Lin Yi would let him in. Previously, Duan Muyu had not finished cultivating, so Lin Yi asked him to wait outside. Now that everything was fine, he naturally let Chu Tianlu in to talk. "Tianlu, come in." Lin Yi greeted him and casually sat on the chair beside the desk. Hearing Lin Yi's call, Chu Tianlu immediately pushed the door open and came in. He first bowed respectfully and said, "Boss Lin Yi, sister-in-law Duan Muyu, breakfast is ready. May I know if you want to send it here or go to the dining hall to eat?" Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "Let's go to the dining hall to eat later. There's no need to trouble yourself. You came to deliver the medicinal pills, right?" "Yes, Boss Lin Yi. Here are some medicinal pills collected by our Chu family, as well as Chu Tianyang's alchemy manual. I thought that maybe Boss Lin Yi would be a little interested, so I brought them together." Chu Tianlu took out a stack of parchment paper from his arms and handed it to Lin Yi. There was also a small book on it. It should be Chu Tianyang's alchemy manual. Lin Yi first looked at the medicinal pills. In addition to those medicinal pills such as Recover Pill, there were medicinal pills for Foundation Establishment Pill, Golden Core Pill, and Yuanying Pill, but that was all. There were no medicinal pills such as the Thunder Xian Pill. It was estimated that there might not be a medicinal pill of the Thunder Xian Pill in the entire ancient Jianghu. Otherwise, there would be cultivators of the mysterious ascension stage. As for the Foundation Establishment Pill, Golden Core Pill, and Yuanying Pill, In addition to the main material of the sea beast Sniden, the other auxiliary materials were also very different from the medicinal pills of the Heavenstep Island. Under Lin Yi's research, he suddenly felt his eyes lit up. The combination of this medicinal pill was completely a new idea. Lin Yi had never thought of it before. Of course, because Lin Yi had never thought that the sea beast Sniden could be used to refine a golden pill, he naturally would not have the idea of matching medicinal materials according to the sea beast Sniden. Although the medicinal materials of the medicinal pill were different, Lin Yi's current medicinal materials reserve was already quite rich, so he did not need to worry about the problem of these auxiliary materials. The only thing he needed to do was to capture the sea beast of the gold core stage. Chapter 5492. Lin Yi put away the pill recipe and opened Chu Tianliang's alchemy manual. However, as soon as he saw it, he immediately frowned. Divine sense condensing pill fire? How could it be like this? Whether it was the common world or the sky-class island, Lin Yi had never heard of a spirit that could condense a refinement fire. He had always used pure qi to condense the refinement fire, but now, all of his knowledge was completely overturned. Boss, is there a problem? Chu Tianlu had been paying attention to Lin Yi. Seeing Lin Yi frown, he thought that there was a problem with Chu Tianliang's alchemy manual, so he immediately asked. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. It's just that the things mentioned in this alchemy manual are a little different from what I've seen before, so I have some doubts." Chu Tianlu scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "If that's the case, I really can't help you with anything. I really don't know anything about alchemy." "I know." Lin Yi laughed and shook his head. He thought to himself, "I knew you don't know alchemy, and I didn't expect you to be able to help me with alchemy." However, what was the difference between condensing pill fire with divine sense and condensing pill fire with qi? Lin Yi really couldn't figure it out. If there was a method to condense pill fire with divine sense in this alchemy manual, Lin Yi wouldn't mind giving it a try and then comparing it with qi to pill fire to understand. Unfortunately, there was no method to condense pill fire with divine sense in this manual, and it was only briefly mentioned. Chu Tianlu suddenly clapped his hands and said, "That's right. Boss Lin Yi, after my grandfather obtained the crab's core last night, he immediately contacted an alchemist to refine the core into a nascent soul golden core. I know that the alchemist isn't far from our Chu family. If he comes quickly, he might already be at our Chu family." "Oh, your grandfather moves quite quickly. He has already found an alchemist who can refine nascent soul golden core." It should be known that an alchemist who could refine a nascent soul golden pill was in existence above the 6th grade. Even on the Heaven Stage Island, it was not easy to find one. This Chu family could actually invite such a person in one night. It seemed that their network was really good. "Boss Lin Yi, why don't we go and take a look? If this alchemist is already here, we should be able to consult him if we have any questions. Or we can just watch him concoct pills. Who knows? He might be able to answer your doubts," Chu Tianlu suggested rather excitedly. Being able to do something for Lin Yi made Chu Tianlu extremely happy. Otherwise, he would feel that he owed Lin Yi too much. Lin Yi was very tempted after hearing this. This was really a good suggestion. If he could directly watch the high-level alchemists of the ancient small world concoct pills on the spot, it would be quite beneficial whether it was in terms of divine sense condensing alchemy fire or controlling this kind of alchemy fire to concoct pills. Since that's the case, let's go take a look. As Lin Yi spoke, he stood up and suddenly asked, "When this alchemist is concocting pills, can others directly watch?" When Lin Yi was concocting pills, he would never let others watch from the side, unless it was someone that Lin Yi was very close and trusted. After all, the automatic alchemy furnace, such a heaven-defying artifact, could not be casually exposed in front of others. Putting himself in others' shoes, other alchemists might not be willing to let irrelevant people watch from the side when they were concocting pills. If they were careless and made a mistake in concocting pills, leading to the final failure of concocting pills, who would be responsible for this? After being asked by Lin Yi, Chu Tianlu also said with some hesitation, "I'm not very clear. I originally thought that there should be no problem, but boss, after what you said, I also feel that it doesn't seem that easy. But it doesn't matter. Even if we can't watch the concoction, At least we can ask some questions about concocting pills. These are all trivial matters. I think he will give face to our Chu family. You're right. Then let's go. Linny shrugged and was about to follow Chu Tianlu to see this alchemist. But after seeing that Duanmu you had already brewed a pot of tea, he changed his mind and said, "This matter is not very urgent. Tianlu, come and taste the tea made by Duanmu Yu. It is definitely not ordinary." Duanmu Yu smiled slightly and said, "Young Master Chu, don't listen to Lin Yi's nonsense. I'm just casually playing with it. Originally, it is not suitable to drink tea like this early in the morning, but we are all cultivators, so we don't have so many scruples." "Sister-in-law, you are too polite. Just call me Tianlu. Don't call me young Master Chu. It makes people feel uncomfortable," Chu Tianlu said with a smile. He picked up the teacup in front of him, blew on the hot air, then raised his head and drank it in one gulp. Then he praised loudly, "Good tea. It's really good tea. Sister-in-law's craftsmanship is really good." Duanmu Yu's pretty face was slightly red, but she did not refute Chu Tianlu's addressing her as sister-in-law. Duanmu Yu was not only used to being addressed like this, but also enjoyed it. Linny said with a smile, "I see that you are also a person who doesn't understand the tea ceremony. What can you taste if you gulp it down like a whale? Forget it. Let's go and see if the alchemist is here." After speaking, Lin Yi also picked up his own teacup and drank the clear tea inside. It was not a waste of Duanmu Yu's effort. Duanmu Yu was secretly amused. Lin Yi obviously did not have a deep understanding of the tea ceremony. He and Chu Tianlu were almost the same. They were indeed the boss and the little brother. After a simple cleaning up, the three of them walked towards the hall. The mess caused last night had been cleaned up overnight. Now the hall was restored to its previous tidiness. Even the blue bricks that had been broken by Xue Jianfeng's kowtow had been replaced. There was no trace of it left. Lin Yi had not arrived yet, but his divine sense had already scanned the hall. In the hall, Chu Yuntian was respectfully talking to an old man. This old man sat arrogantly in the seat of honor. Obviously, his status was quite high. He should be the alchemist invited by Chu Yuntian. It was not surprising that an alchemist who could refine nascent soul and golden elixirs had such a status. This was the case on the Heaven Stage Island. A high-level alchemist was enough to be on an equal footing with the higher-ups of the major sections. As soon as the three of them entered the hall, before Chu Tianlu had time to introduce the alchemist to Lin Yi, he heard Chu Yuntian say with a smile, "Master Chun, can you discuss this matter again? Our Chu family can use other things to exchange, not necessarily elixirs, right?" Chapter 5493. Chu Yuntian's face was full of bitterness, but he also understood that Master Chun was a man of his word. He probably wouldn't change no matter how much he begged. Lin Yi was surprised. He really didn't expect that the conditions given by this guy surnamed Chun would be so overbearing. He provided the materials and the alchemy fee, but in the end, he couldn't even get one pill. He could only give it to the old man surnamed Chan. Wasn't this completely making a wedding dress for the old mansion? Although there was nothing wrong with an alchemist receiving elixir as a reward, and the Heaven Stage Island also had such a rule, the Heaven Stage Island would at least guarantee that in the case of one pill, the employer would be given priority. After all, it was the employer who collected the materials and spent a lot of money on alchemy. If the alchemist could only make one pill, there was no reason to continue to collect elixir after receiving the alchemy fee. At this moment, Chu Yuntian's heart was in a dilemma. Speaking of alchemists who could refine nascent soul golden pills, Old Man Shin wouldn't be the only one in the entire immemorial martial world. However, Chu Yuntian could only invite him. Therefore, other than him, he really couldn't find anyone else to refine nascent soul golden pills. However, the conditions given by this old man Chen were really too harsh. One had to know that the success rate of this old man Chen's alchemy was never more than 30%. With such a low success rate, it was simply impossible to guarantee 2 pills. With a success rate of 30%, if he wanted to make one pill, he would have to bear a great risk. Now that he finally made one pill, he had to give it to old man Chen. No matter how Chu Yuntian thought about it, he felt that he would end up losing everything. "Chu Yuntian, what are you thinking about? Hurry up and give me a straightforward answer." Old Man Chin's face was full of impatience. He didn't put Chu Yuntian, a nascent soul-old monster, in his eyes at all. However, it was no wonder that the Chu family was originally a small family. Chu Yuntian, a nascent soul-old monster, was only the weakest nascent soul early stage. Old Man Chun was an alchemist from the small archaic underworld 5 elements sect. The status of the two could be said to be like heaven and earth. In front of Old Man Chin, Chu Yuntian really didn't have much confidence. Because of this, after Chu Yuntian was urged, he could only continue to smile apologetically. Master Chun, this condition is really a bit harsh. Can you let me think about it again? Old Man Chun said angrily. Consider? What was there to consider? Could it be that there is an alchemist more powerful than this seat? Chu Yuntian hurriedly shook his head and said, No, no. In the entire ancient underworld, there aren't many who can compare to you, Master Chin, let alone those who are stronger than you. When Old Man Chin heard this, his expression became slightly better. He snorted coldly and said, Since that's the case, what else do you have to consider? Apart from me, who else can turn these materials into pills? Chu Yuntian thought to himself, even if no one can refine it, at least these things belong to our Chu family. If we sell them, we can get back a lot of spiritual jades. But if we let you refine them, with your level, it would be difficult for you to even form a single pill. But if a single pill is formed, it will belong to you. Our Chu family's things will be completely wasted. No, even if he were to throw something into the water, he would at least be able to hear a sound. If he were to refine pills, he wouldn't even be able to hear a sound. However, Chu Yuntian could only say these words in his heart. He didn't dare to say any of them out loud. Old Man Chin's status was there, and Chu Yuntian really couldn't afford to offend him. Chu Yuntian didn't dare to open his mouth, but Chu Tianlu, who was frank and straightforward, immediately walked over and cupped his fists. He said, Master Chen, with all due respect, the entire ancient underworld knows that your success rate in alchemy is around 30% at most. If we follow your conditions, our Chu family will basically lose everything. In the end, there is a 99% chance that we won't get anything. So, can you let our Chu family use other things to exchange for one pill? Old Man Chin's expression was as gloomy as water. He said with a sneer, Where did you come from, Junior? Is this where you have the right to speak? Can't you see that this seat is talking to your family's elder? Why are you interrupting? Chu Tianlu said boldly, I am the young patriarch of the Chu family. Right now, I am in charge of all the matters of the Chu family. The same goes for alchemy. Master Chun, do you think that I have the right to speak? According to normal circumstances, Chu Tianlu should at least address himself as a junior. However, he was now Lin Yi's little brother. If he addressed himself as a junior in front of Old Man Chin, it was tantamount to making Lin Yi the same generation as Old Man Chin, or even a junior. This made Chu Tianlu, who worshipped Lin Yi like a god, unable to accept it. So, his tone of speech was a bit harsh. Old Man Chun said furiously, This seat doesn't care if you are the young patriarch or the old patriarch. To put it bluntly, who does your Chu family think you are? How dare you speak to this seat like this? Master Chun, calm down. Let's talk this out. Chu Yuntian hurriedly smiled apologetically and appeased Chu Tianlu. If it was before, he would definitely give Chu Tianlu a good scolding. However, now, he didn't dare to do so. Didn't he see that Lin Yi was standing beside Chu Tianlu? If he offended Old Man Chin, at most, he wouldn't be able to perform alchemy. However, if he offended Lin Yi, he would definitely die. Talk? What kind of talk? Is this how your Chu family asks me to perform alchemy? Do you really think that our 5-element sect can be bullied by just anyone? Old Man Chin didn't intend to talk nicely at all. In his opinion, for a grassroots family like the Chu family, he had condescended to perform alchemy for them, which was already giving them face. Not only did they not know how to be grateful, but they even wanted to bargain. I dare not. I dare not. Master Chun, you are too serious. Chu Yuntian's forehead was about to break out in cold sweat. If he had known this would happen, he would not have performed alchemy. Today, this seat will leave my words here. Whether you want to or not, you have to do it. Otherwise, if word of this gets out, where will I put my face? Old man Chen narrowed his slender eyes, which flickered with a cold light. He looked at Chu Yuntian and made him feel cold. However, what he said next made Chu Yuntian feel completely cold. If you don't agree, then the Chu family will be blacklisted by our five-element sect. As soon as these words came out, both Chu Yuntian and Chu Tianlu were completely dumbfounded. What did it mean to be blacklisted by the five-element sect? Linny might not know, but they were clearly aware of it. In the small Jianghu of ancient times, few sects that offended the five-elements sect could come out unscathed. Even if there were, it would definitely not be a grassroots family like the Chu family, which had not even entered the top 10 small sections. Chapter 5494. Old Man Chen glanced at Lin Yi contemptuously. He was too lazy to even get angry. He sneered directly and said, "Where did this junior come from? Your Chu family's upbringing is really good. Fine, if you don't ask me to refine pills today, then don't expect me to help you in the future. At the same time, you have to be mentally prepared for the consequences of offending the five-elements sect." Linny said disdainfully, "If your alchemy level is as high as your ability to scare people, it's not that I can't refine pills for you. Let's not talk about whether you can represent the five-elements sect. With your alchemy level, there's really nothing to be proud of. Isn't it just alchemy? I can also refine pills. Is it that great?" Bullshit. Old Man Chen almost jumped up. He was most proud of his identity as an alchemist. Now that he was despised by Lin Yi, how could he not be angry? He immediately roared, "Ignorant kid. Do you think alchemy is so easy? You also say you can refine pills? This seat has never heard of such a character like you among the alchemists. You can't be so unreliable even if you're boasting, right?" Linny shrugged and said, "Whether I'm boasting or not, we'll know once we try. If you don't believe me, I'll refine the pills. What do you think I should do?" "Impossible." Old Man Chen subconsciously roared and retorted, "Just tell me what to do." Linny was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and pressed him step by step. Old Man Chen said with a ferocious look, "Fine, I'll see what tricks you can play. As long as you can refine pills, I'll refine pills for your Chu family for free." Linny looked at Old Man Chen with an expression as if he was looking at an idiot and said, "Are you stupid? I've already refined pills. Why do I need you to refine pills for free? Do I need your mediocre alchemy level?" Old Man Chen almost spat blood. Besides the time when he'd just started learning pill refinement, it was really the first time in so many years that he'd been called mediocre in pill refinement. No matter what, he was the top alchemist in the tiny world of the primeval times, and it was truly intolerable. "Junior, you're going too far. Tell me what to do. I really don't believe it today." Old Man Chen really didn't believe that Lin Yi could successfully refine the elixir. He immediately let Lin Yi draw the line. Linny said coolly, "Then let's do it this way. If I can refine it successfully, you can stop refining pills from now on." "All right." Old Man Chen was about to go mad from anger. He agreed without hesitation and then asked, "What if you can't refine it? What do you want to say?" Linny looked at Old Man Chen mockingly. Linny was simply bullying him. Before it even started, Old Man Chen was destined to lose. Hence, no matter what he said, Lin Yi would not object. "It's very simple. You failed, and your Chu clan has to apologize to me. At the same time, pay me 10 times the amount of spirit jades as compensation. Do you have them? If you do, I'll play with you." Old Man Chen forced himself to calm down and said, thinking that victory was in his grasp. Chu Yuntian was shocked when he heard that. To refine this elixir, the Chu clan needed to pay an additional 500 spirit jades to Old Man Chen. Now, he asked for 10 times the compensation, which was 5,000 spirit jades. To the Chu clan, this was a huge sum of money. It was impossible for them to take it out right now. However, Chu Yuntian did not expect that Lin Yi could really refine elixirs. After all, it was true that Lin Yi's strength was powerful, but alchemy and strength did not necessarily have any relation. Chu Yuntian really didn't want to get involved. Old Man Chen secretly sneered. He completely saw Chu Yuntian's expression. Clearly, the Chu clan couldn't take out this amount of spirit jades. Although Old Man Shun was certain that Lin Yi would fail, to be able to gain a little upper hand at this time still made him very happy. How is it? Do you have 5,000 spirit jades? If you do, take it out and let me see. Otherwise, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Hurry up and give me the materials and compensation. Old Man Shun was proud in his heart and felt that he was really quick-witted. Unexpectedly, Lin Yi said calmly, "It's merely 5,000 spirit jades. What's the big deal? You wait." After saying that, Lin Yi turned around and left the hall. 5,000 spirit jades was not something that could be stored in a small bag. It was impossible for Lin Yi to directly take it out from the space in the jade pendant. He could only first find a place to hide from the eyes and ears. Soon, Lin Yi came back carrying a big bag of spirit jades. He threw it in front of Old Man Shun and said, "If you're interested, count it and see if it's enough." Pure spiritual power fluctuations were emitted from the open bags. It was obvious that the quality of the spiritual jades inside was rather good. When Old Man Shun saw the bag full of spiritual jades, he was completely dumbfounded. Even Chu Yuntian and Chu Tianlu were dumbfounded by the sight. Old Man Shun was only surprised that the Chu clan could take out 5,000 spirit jades so easily. However, Chu Yuntian and Chu Tianlu were surprised at where these 5,000 spirit jades came from. Lin Yi obviously didn't bring any big luggage. These 5,000 spirit jades were not something that could be casually carried in one's pocket. Could it be that the entire Chu clan was blind? "Old man, the spirit jades are here. If you don't count them, then I'll take it as you've tacitly agreed." Lin Yi was naturally not interested in explaining the origin of these spirit jades to them. He looked at Old Man Shun indifferently and said, "Ah, ah." Old Man Shun was still in shock. He only unconsciously agreed. Then, he reacted and said, "Okay. I'll kindly accept these 5,000 spirit jades. Since you, a junior, want to try, then go. Anyway, these materials belong to your Chu clan. Even if you fail, it has nothing to do with me." To be able to earn 5,000 spirit jades, Old Man Shun felt that it wasn't a bad thing. After all, it wasn't easy to refine a nascent soul golden pill. Even if he really succeeded, he couldn't guarantee the quality. Maybe even if he succeeded, he wouldn't be able to directly advance to the nascent soul stage. Lin Yi laughed and said, "These spirit jades are just for you to look at to satisfy your craving. Do you really think that you can take them away? Let's cut the crap. Since you've agreed, then I'll start refining the pill. If you're interested, why don't you just casually refine a pill here, lest you lose the bet and can no longer refine pills?" Old Man Shun snorted disdainfully and said, "Ignorant child. Seeing that you're going to give me so many spirit jades, I'll kindly remind you that refining pills isn't something that just anyone can play with. Admit defeat as soon as possible, lest you hurt yourself later." These words are quite suitable for you. After Lin Yi ridiculed him, he no longer paid attention to Old Man Shun. He turned around and said to Chu Tianlu, "Tianlu, prepare a secret room for me. I'm going to start refining pills." Chu Tianlu opened the entrance to the secret chamber and said respectfully, "This place is not bad. Let's do it here." Lin Yi said indifferently. He just didn't want to be seen when he was concocting pills. In fact, it was the same even if the doors and windows of the study were closed. However, since there was a more suitable place, Lin Yi wouldn't object. "Then you can go down, boss. Do you need me to stand guard here? I don't want anyone to disturb you while you're concocting pills." Chu Tianlu gave way to the entrance, and at the same time applied to stand guard for Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and said, "That's fine too. Then wait for me up here." "Yes, boss." Chu Tianlu's face lit up, and he hurriedly cupped his fists and agreed. Lin Yi went down the stairs to the secret chamber. As Chu Tianlu had said, the ventilation was good, and the place was very clean. There was no problem in concocting pills here. After taking out the automatic alchemy furnace, Lin Yi wasted no time and immediately began to concoct pills. However, when Lin Yi chose the nascent soul golden pill on the panel, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The ingredients and pill recipes were different, So the nascent soul golden pill recipe that was stored in the alchemy artifact was naturally useless. I can only input a new recipe. Fortunately, the heavenly road sent the recipe for the sea beast's inner core just now. Linny shook his head and muttered with a smile. Then, he took out the nascent soul golden pill recipe that Chu Tianlu had given him and quickly input it. After inputting the recipe, the process of automatically analyzing the recipe began. Linny was not in a hurry. After all, it was not impossible for ordinary people to spend 10 days to half a month to concoct pills. As long as the recipe was analyzed, with the speed of the automatic alchemy furnace, the pills would be formed in a short while. Half an hour later, Linny looked at the words "analysis failed" on the panel and could not help but slap his forehead. Only then did he remember that there was no information about the sea beast's inner core on the Heaven Stage Island. Moreover, the pill recipes here were all concocted using the alchemy fire condensed by divine sense, which was completely different from the setup of the alchemy artifact. After all, the computer was not the human brain. It could only execute the preset program. Han Jingjing, the creator, did not know about alchemy using the divine sense alchemy fire. Naturally, it was impossible to take this situation into account in advance, so it was normal that the new recipe could not be recognized. This matter could only wait for Lin Yi to return to the Heaven Stage Island and find Han Jingjing to study it and see if there could be a solution. However, in this way, even if he had the inner core of the sea beast in the gold core stage, there was no way to successfully refine the gold core golden pill. This was the thing that gave Linny a headache. What a headache! Since there was no way to try alchemy with the inner core, then now he could only use the nascent soul golden pill that was refined on the Heaven Stage Island. Although the materials were different, the final effect was the same. After the elixir was formed, it was definitely not a simple matter to analyze the composition of the elixir. It was estimated that only a local tyrant like Lin Yi would not care about it. Others would only waste the nascent soul golden pill to analyze the composition. He took out the 2 nascent soul golden pills and looked at them. Due to the preservation ability of the space of the jade pendant, these 2 elixirs were still maintained in the state when they were just taken out of the furnace. There was no problem at all in using them to fish in troubled waters. However, after Linny thought about it, he still put these 2 nascent soul golden pills back. It was too early to go out now. It seemed to be too shocking. He might as well refine another batch of nascent soul golden pills. Anyway, he had to use them. There was a lot of nascent ginseng, and there were enough auxiliary elixirs. With the idea that he was idle, Lin Yi chose the previous nascent soul golden pill recipe. He put a piece of nascent ginseng and other auxiliary materials into the alchemy artifact and began to refine the elixir step by step. This time, Lin Yi only put in 4 sets of materials. In the end, there were 7 elixirs, which was quite good. After putting 5 of them into the space of the jade pendant, Lin Yi put the remaining 2 in a small box and went out. Chapter 5496. Lin Yi was slightly startled. What do you mean it doesn't matter if I fail? I've already refined the pill. Oh, you've refined the pill? What? You've refined the pill? Chu Tianlu didn't react at first. Then, he jumped up abruptly and stammered, Boss, did you say, you succeeded? It wasn't anything difficult. What's there to be surprised about? Lin Yi smiled faintly and gestured to Chu Tianlu. Let's go. Let's go and see the grand occasion of old man Chun washing his hands in a golden basin. Chu Tianlu made an "oh" sound and followed Lin Yi to the hall in a daze. He hadn't recovered from the shock of Lin Yi successfully refining the nascent soul golden pill. It wasn't that Chu Tianlu didn't have confidence in Lin Yi. The key was how long had passed. Who didn't spend a few days refining pills? A few days was fast. What about Lin Yi? Did he go in for 4 hours? When Chu Tianlu saw Lin Yi, he instinctively thought that Lin Yi had ruined the pill as soon as he started refining. The 2 of them entered the hall one after the other. When Old Man Chun saw Lin Yi, he immediately revealed a mocking smile. Yo, isn't this our genius alchemist? Why did you come out so quickly? Oh my, I thought you could at least persevere for a day or 2. I didn't expect you to be finished just like that. Why do you need a day or 2? Didn't you come out when you're done? Linny curled his lips and chuckled. Isn't it just refining a nascent soul golden pill? Only a three-legged cat like you would need a few days. Don't tell me you've already refined the nascent soul golden pill? Old man Chen looked like he was watching a joke. He wouldn't believe such a thing even if he was beaten to death. This was a nascent soul golden pill, not a low-level pill like the recover pill or the recover pill. How could it be refined so quickly? Brag, continue to brag, but I don't have time to play with you. I'll accept these spiritual jades. Linny raised his hand and took out the small box. You can forget about the spiritual jades. However, before you stop refining pills, I can let you see what true alchemy is. Old man Chun felt very uneasy in his heart. Linny's performance really didn't look like someone who failed in alchemy. Could it be that he really refined a nascent soul golden core? Oldman Shin really wouldn't believe such a thing even if he was beaten to death. But after Lin Yi opened the lid, Oldman Shun felt that it was better for someone to quickly beat him to death. In that inconspicuous little box, there were actually 2 nascent soul golden pills, and they were not ordinary nascent soul golden pills. Judging from the halo circulating on them, they were definitely top-grade nascent soul golden pills. To be honest, as a top alchemist in the small archaic underworld, Oldman Shun had never seen a top-grade nascent soul golden pill. It was almost something that only existed in legends. Now, it actually appeared in front of him abruptly, and it wasn't just 1, but 2. Not only was Oldman Shun shocked, but even Chu Yuntian was pleasantly surprised. Even Chu Tianlu, who already knew that Linny had succeeded in refining pills, was a little dumbfounded. Chu Tianlu only knew that Linny had succeeded in concocting a pill, but he'd always thought that Linny had only barely managed to concoct 1 pill. However, Lin Yi had once again refreshed his image in Chu Tianlu's heart. Impossible. This must have been prepared a long time ago. Oldman Shun suddenly shouted. This matter really broke his understanding. In a moment of desperation, he could only think of such a reason, and he instantly believed in his own analysis. Lin Yi's mouth was full of mockery, and he said lightly, Can't you see whether it was prepared a long time ago or not? Oldman Chen leaped over with a swoosh. He didn't care whether Lin Yi agreed or not, and he reached out to grab the nascent soul golden pill in the small box. Lin Yi withdrew his hand, and Oldman Chen grabbed empty air. Immediately, he became angry out of humiliation and said, If you don't let me see, how do I know whether it was prepared a long time ago? Could it be that you're guilty? You can only look, but you're not allowed to move. I'm afraid that your hands will be dirty. Lin Yi's face was indifferent, but it was this expression, combined with his words, that made Oldman Chin's old face instantly turn red. I'm afraid that your hands will be dirty. Oldman Chin was really going crazy. For so many years, as a dignified alchemist, he was respected and sought after everywhere he went. When had he ever been humiliated like this? However, Lin Yi didn't have the slightest consciousness of humiliating him. In his opinion, since you like to be arrogant and despotic, then don't blame me, who specializes in dealing with arrogant and despotic people, for being rude to you. Good. Nice to meet you. Oldman Shun really wanted to fly into a rage, but after seeing the unfriendly expression on Bing Wuqing's face, he desperately suppressed his anger. Junior, I'll remember you. Bring it over and let me see it clearly. As long as he could prove that these 2 nascent soul golden pills had been refined a long time ago, then everything could be reversed. Therefore, after Oldman Chen suppressed his anger, he focused his attention on the small box in Lin Yi's hand. Those 2 supreme-grade nascent soul golden pills, in the eyes of Oldman Chen, were really perfect works. If these perfect works were refined by himself, then it would be even more perfect. Unfortunately, this possibility was almost non-existent. With his talent, he had long reached the peak of alchemy, and it was impossible for him to have any further breakthroughs. A faint greed flashed in Oldman Chin's eyes. Faced with 2 supreme-grade nascent soul golden pills, it was impossible for him not to be tempted. However, although Oldman Chin wasn't weak, he had absolutely no chance of winning against nascent soul old monsters like Bing Wuqing or Chu Yuntian. After all, alchemists had always been weaker in terms of their abilities, so he could only observe the pills carefully. Old Man Chun was even calculating in his heart. If he could prove that these two nascent soul golden pills had been prepared a long time ago, then he wouldn't even want his 5,000 spirit jade. These supreme-grade nascent soul golden pills had to be in his hands. Unfortunately, no matter how good Old Man Chin's plans were, it was useless in the end. Because no matter how he looked at it, these two nascent soul golden cores were in a state that had just been refined, and it was even to the extent that the temperature on the surface of the pill hadn't completely dissipated. If he approached it, he would be able to feel the strand of hot air that was wrapped in a lingering pill fragrance slowly rising up. Linny looked at Old Man Chun mockingly and smiled indifferently. Have you seen enough? Are you going to lie through your teeth and say that these two nascent soul golden pills have been prepared a long time ago? Old Man Chin's face turned red and then green. He straightened his back, but he couldn't say anything. If he could, he really wanted to say that Linny had prepared them a long time ago, but the fact was that these were indeed nascent soul golden pills that had just been refined. If Lin Yi could refine two supreme-grade nascent soul golden pills in such a short time, then Lin Yi's alchemy skills had long gone beyond Old Man Chin's imagination. The mobile game Campus Bell's Bodyguard is hot. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urine22. All kinds of latest news, sign books, and activities are constantly being sent. Chapter 5497. Even the entire Five-Element sect would not dare to offend such a person, let alone Old Man Chen, who was only an alchemist of the Five-Element sect. As an alchemist, he naturally knew that a person with such alchemy skills could gather a terrifying force if he wanted to. It's just been refined. No matter how unwilling he was, Old Man Chun could only grit his teeth and nod his head to admit it. It was not only because he feared Lin Yi, but also because of Bing Wuching, who was looking at him coldly from the side. Lin Yi nodded. This old man was quite sensible and did not intend to fight to the end. Lin Yi immediately closed the lid of the box and said, "Since you admit that this is a golden pill of nascent soul that has just been refined, you also admit to this bet. So I win." "You win." Old Man Chun clenched his teeth and stamped his feet. After saying this, he immediately lowered his head and walked out dejectedly. Lin Yi did not stop him. As for the bet that Old Man Chen could not refine pills in the future, Lin Yi did not care much. Unless Old Man Chen's divine sense was destroyed on the spot, he could only rely on Old Man Chun to restrain himself. Lin Yi estimated that this old man would not keep his promise. After Old Man Chen left, Chu Yuntian rushed to Lin Yi's side, bowed slightly, and said with a smile, "Senior Lin." No, it's Master Lin." I didn't expect Master Lin to be so hidden. Not only is his strength outstanding, but he is also the best in alchemy. In such a short time, you can refine two golden pills of nascent soul. It would be an insult to Master Lin to say that you are a genius. Ahem. Lin Yi could not help coughing a few times. Such mushy flattery, coming from the mouth of an old man like Chu Yuntian, really made Lin Yi a little uncomfortable. Chu Tianlu was much more honest. He just praised loudly, "Big brother is the big brother." I, Chu Tianlu, am so lucky to be able to meet a big brother like you. I'm afraid there is no other person like you in the entire ancient underworld. Brother Wuching, our foresight is really good to the max. All right, even Lin Yi found the flattery of an honest person a little hard to accept. Who would have thought that after hearing Chu Tianlu's praise, Bing Wuching, with her ice-cold face, would actually nod with a serious expression, expressing her agreement. Yi Qingqing's face was full of envy as he watched the scene unfold. He wanted to say something to flatter Lin Yi, but realized that he couldn't get a word in. Now that he thought about it, he really regretted it. Back when Lin Yi first came to Yiling's sect, if he had decisively made Duanmuyu and Lin Yi get on good terms, wouldn't Yiling's sect have been reborn? Glancing at Duanmuyu, who was quietly smiling at the side, Yi Qingqing thought to himself, "Fortunately, it's not too late to realize this. With Duanmuyu around, Lin Yi will never abandon Yiling's sect." As for the Chu clan, Yi Qingqing thought that their rise seemed to be foreseeable. Especially this time, Yi Qingqing saw with his own eyes that the Chu clan's foundation was quite deep. Previously, the Chu clan released news to the public, claiming that there were only 2 or 3 gold cores in the Chu clan, but the truth was that there were at least 10 gold cores in the Chu clan. Coupled with Chu Yuntian, who had a supreme-grade gold core, the Chu clan's strength was enough to establish a firm foothold among the 10 small sects and families. While Yi Qingcheng was calculating in his heart, Lin Yi took out a gold core of nascent soul and handed it to Chu Yuntian. This is the one I promised to give you. I'll make the decision to give the other one to Yi Qingqing. You don't have any objections, do you? No. Master Lin, you're too polite. This should have been Master Lin's. I'm deeply grateful that you gave me one. How dare I have any objections to Master Lin's things? Chu Yuntian shook his head like a rattled drum, for fear of causing Lin Yi to misunderstand. It should be known that Chu Yuntian had been prepared to not get a single gold core before. Now that he could get one, and it was a supreme-grade gold core of nascent soul at that, he was already overjoyed. It was like a dream. How could he have any objections? Besides, according to the rules, the medicinal pills refined by Lin Yi should belong to Lin Yi. Whether Lin Yi kept it for himself, or gave it away, or even fed it to a dog, it had nothing to do with Chu Yuntian. Yi Qingcheng was also overjoyed. He was thinking of continuing to deepen the friendship and connection with the Chu family. Suddenly, when he heard that Lin Yi would give him a gold core of nascent soul, he even wanted to kneel down and hug Lin Yi's thigh. Fortunately, he knew how to restrain himself and barely suppressed this shameful thought. He pointed at himself with a trembling finger and asked incredulously, Master Lin, you said, you're going to give me one? Gold core of nascent soul? Supreme grade? Lin Yi closed the lid indifferently and threw it to Yi Qingqing. There's only one supreme grade. I can't give you anything else. Yi Qingqing caught the small box in a flurry. This was a treasure that contained a supreme-grade gold core of nascent soul. If he dropped it, he would die of heartache. Until he got the small box, Yi Qingqing still felt like he was dreaming. All of this was too unreal. Was he going to advance to the nascent soul realm? Was Yi Ling's sect going to have another nascent soul old monster? Master Lin, you've really hidden your strength well. Not only are you outstanding, but you're also the best in alchemy. In such a short time, you were able to refine 2 supreme-grade gold cores of nascent soul realm. It's an insult to you, Master Lin, to say that you're a genius. Yi Qingqing suddenly complimented Lin Yi. However, this line sounded very familiar to Lin Yi. Chu Yuntian glanced at Yi Qingqing disdainfully. Not only did this guy give me a gold core of nascent soul realm, but he also copied my compliments to Master Lin. He even used them in front of the original, without changing a single word. Did he have any sense of morality? Lin Yi coughed dryly. Lin Yi was really ashamed of their compliments. At this moment, he could only smile bitterly in his heart. He really wasn't a genius. Moreover, after trying this time, he knew that it was impossible for Han Jingjing to refine the elixir recipe of the primordial underworld with this godly alchemy artifact before she leveled up. If he wanted to improve Duanmu Yu's strength, he could only use the gold core of nascent soul realm. However, he couldn't refine the godly alchemy artifact. Even if Lin Yi went to capture many gold core realm sea beasts and obtain their inner cores, it would be useless. He couldn't refine a large number of elixirs that could improve his strength. In the face of the increasingly powerful core, Lin Yi only felt great pressure. He could easily kill a nascent soul realm cultivator, but the people around him couldn't. Bing Wuqing was a genius and could challenge a nascent soul realm cultivator with a higher level, but the chances of her winning were 50-50 at most. If it were someone else, it would be even worse. The mobile game Schoolbell's Bodyguard is hot. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urine22. All kinds of latest news, autographed books, and activities are constantly being sent. Chapter 5498. If the center started to target Lin Yi, they would inevitably start with the people around him. At that time, these people who were at a disadvantage obviously couldn't resist. No matter how powerful Lin Yi was, he was only one person. Facing a large number of experts in the center, It was absolutely impossible to defend. Moreover, Lin Yi had to go back to the heavenly stage island eventually. It was impossible to stay in the ancient Jianghu. This was an unsolvable problem. Yi Qingqing happily held the nascent soul golden pill in his hand. Duamu Yu on the side was also quite surprised. She didn't expect Lin Yi to be so generous and directly give a nascent soul golden pill to Yi Qingqing. Of course, Duamu Yu also knew that Lin Yi did this for her sake, so she couldn't help but feel a little sweet in her heart. This feeling was like a husband giving a gift to his wife's family. Thinking about it made her blush a little. Lin Yi didn't know Duamu Yu's little thoughts, but he did give a nascent soul golden pill to Yi Qingqing for Duamu Yu's sake. Anyway, he still had nascent soul golden pills. If it wasn't enough, he could refine more. It didn't matter if it was 1 or 2. Tianlu, do you know who Chu Tianliang learned alchemy from? Is there any alchemy mental cultivation method, or something? Lin Yi thought about it. He still had to solve it from the alchemy method of the ancient Jianghu. In any case, he had to at least figure out how to use his divine sense to condense the alchemy fire. Chu Yuntian immediately answered, if it's alchemy mental cultivation method, there should be. Tianlu, quickly go and find it for Master Lin. Be quick. Chu Tianlu nodded, then turned to Lin Yi and said, Boss, Chu Tianliang's alchemy mental cultivation method seems to be there. I seem to have seen it when I was looking for alchemy manual before. But boss, you are already so good at alchemy. Why do you still need to look at Chu Tianliang's alchemy mental cultivation method? He is just a low-level alchemist, and the alchemy mental cultivation method is at most some basic methods. Lin Yi thought to himself that the basic methods were right. If you gave me a profound one, I might not be able to understand it. I just want to take a look and confirm some of my thoughts, Lin Yi said casually. Chu Yuntian said unhappily, Why are you so insensible, child? Master Lin is your boss. What are you being so long-winded about your boss's orders? Hurry up and get it. How can a junior like you fathom Master Lin's thoughts? Chu Tianlu shrunk his neck. After responding, he quickly ran out. Although he was already the young master of the Chu clan who held great power, he was still somewhat afraid in front of Chu Yuntian. Lin Yi casually chatted with a few people, and then Chu Tianlu hurriedly ran back, holding a book in his hand. It was precisely Chu Tianliang's pill concoction mental technique. Boss, I've brought the item. See if it's what you need. Chu Tianlu ran in front of Lin Yi and handed over the book with both hands. Lin Yi casually thanked him, took it, and flipped through a few pages. This was indeed Chu Tianliang's pill concoction mental technique. It contained the most basic method of condensing the alchemy fire with the divine sense. Lin Yi was secretly delighted. As long as he could condense the alchemy fire with his divine sense, even if he couldn't use it for automatic alchemy, he could at least try to refine it himself. After putting away the pill concoction mental technique, Lin Yi continued to say a few words to the crowd, and then he left alone to return to his room, preparing to study this pill concoction mental technique. With the strength of Lin Yi's divine sense, it would not be a problem to say that it was the strongest in the ancient small world. At the beginning, the condensation was still smooth. Lin Yi quickly used his divine sense to form the alchemy fire, which was a good start. However, then Lin Yi discovered a problem. A good start was not equal to half the success. No matter how Lin Yi tried, there was no way to control the intensity and temperature of the alchemy fire. What the hell? Why is it like this again? It was obviously carried out according to this pill concoction mental technique. Lin Yi muttered helplessly, but he was still at his wits' end. Speaking of which, Lin Yi's cultivation could be said to be smooth sailing, but on the path of alchemy, there was no progress. It was the same when he was in the secular world. Although he could successfully generate the alchemy fire, there was no way to control the intensity and temperature of the alchemy fire. However, at that time, because of the incomplete attributes, he could not become an alchemist. Later, his attributes were complete, but he still couldn't refine alchemy by himself. If it wasn't for the automatic alchemy artifact invented by Han Jingjing, Lin Yi's progress would never be so fast. Maybe he would have been finished somewhere. There's no reason. The alchemy fire condensed by true qi is like this. How can the alchemy fire condensed by divine sense be like this? It should be possible. Why is it the same? Lin Yi kept looking at the pill concoction mental technique, and his mouth continued to mutter, hoping to find the reason why he kept failing. After a while, Lin seemed to have figured something out, and he shook his head with a wry smile. Perhaps it was because Lin was now a soul, and controlling the intensity and temperature of the alchemy fire had to rely on his physical hand to control it. But now, Lin was not a physical body. Although he could use divine sense to condense alchemy fire, he couldn't control it. Of course, whether this was the case or not, Lin also couldn't verify it. After all, this was only his guess. In any case, Lin could be said to be useless in the path of alchemy. Even the most powerful cultivation genius had shortcomings. Fortunately, Han Jingjing could make up for this shortcoming with science, so it wouldn't affect Lin too much. Thinking about this, Lin completely gave up the idea of using the sea beast Niden for alchemy in the ancient small world. In this way, Lin must find another way, otherwise, his advantage would be lost. Lin suddenly missed Han Jingjing very much. If this genius girl was here, she would definitely be able to solve this problem easily. Unfortunately, before he returned to Heaven Stage Island, it would be impossible to see Han Jingjing. Since condensing alchemy fire was useless, Lin no longer forced himself. Instead, he continued to refine the residual medicinal power of the divine sense fruit. It was also quite important to remove the tumor of divine sense as soon as possible. The next day, Yi Qingsheng came to the small courtyard with Duanmu Yu early in the morning, ready to visit Lin Yi. Originally, Duanmu Yu felt that there was no need to be so careful. When looking for Lin Yi, he could directly knock on the door, but Yi Qingsheng didn't dare to be so negligent, even if Duanmu Yu might become Lin Yi's woman. Master Yi, why are you looking for me so early? Come in and talk. Fortunately, Lin Yi's divine sense was always monitoring the small courtyard. After discovering Yi Qingsheng and Duanmu Yu's arrival, he immediately opened the door and invited them in. Yi Qingsheng hurried forward and saluted respectfully. Master Lin, I'm really sorry to disturb you so early. It doesn't matter. Lin Yi smiled faintly and nodded gently to Duanmu Yu as a greeting. Master Yi, what's the matter for you to come so early? For the latest news of the School Bell's new book, please add Fishman's QQ God public account, Fishman2. WeChat public account Urin22. Various activities are held regularly. Autographed books are sent continuously. Chapter 5499. Yes, I have something to ask of you. Yi Qingsheng didn't look like a sect master at all at this time. His face was full of a humble smile. It couldn't be helped. Whether it was Lin Yi's strength or Lin Yi's alchemy ability, Yi Qingsheng couldn't catch up to them. Therefore, Yi Qingsheng didn't feel wronged by this humble attitude at all. Lin Yi asked the two of them to enter the room and sit down. Then he said lightly, What's the matter, Sect Master Yi? Yi Qingsheng didn't dare to be careless. He stood up again, bowed slightly, and cupped his fists. Junior Yi Qingsheng thanks Master Lin for bestowing the elixir to me yesterday. Today, I would like to ask Master Lin to continue to help and protect me. Protect? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He thought it was something important. So it was to protect him? Although it would waste some time, with Duanmu Yu's face, it didn't seem to be a big deal. Duanmu Yu smiled at Lin Yi. Our Yiling sect hasn't had a nascent soul realm cultivator for a long time, and the Grand Supreme Elder has been in seclusion recently. Therefore, the sect master has some concerns about breaking through to the nascent soul realm. He wants to ask you to protect him because he's afraid that something will go wrong. I see. Lin Yi nodded. In fact, with the supreme grade nascent soul and the golden pill, and Yi Qingsheng was a veteran in the exceptional gold core realm, breaking through to the nascent soul realm was absolutely a matter of course. However, Lin Yi could understand his concerns, so he immediately said, No problem. Since you want me to protect you, I will protect you. Anyway, I'm not going to leave the Chu family these days. Yi Qingsheng was immediately surprised and said, Thank you, Master Lin. In this way, this junior has full confidence. After that, Yi Qingsheng didn't delay and immediately said goodbye. Master Lin, then I will go and prepare. You can chat with Xiaoyu first. When you are free, we will start to break through to the nascent soul realm. Duanmu Yu's pretty face was slightly red. She lowered her head and didn't speak. She really wanted to chat with Lin Yi, but after hearing Yi Qingqing's words, she felt a little shy. All right, go ahead. Inform me when you're ready. Lin Yi waved his hand, indicating that Yi Qingqing could leave. In fact, Lin Yi was prepared to leave today, but since there was such a thing, he would have to wait a few more days. After all, not everyone was like him, and the people around him who treated breaking through to the next realm as an ordinary cultivation. Yi Qingqing didn't say much, and very perceptively retreated. Lin Yi was just about to say something to Duan Muyu, when his divine sense discovered that Chu Yuntian had brought Chu Tianlu over. It's really lively today. Lin Yi shook his head slightly and said to Duan Muyu with a smile. He raised his voice and said, Tianlu, come in with your grandfather. Don't wait at the door. Boss, you have guests here. Let's come back later. As soon as Chu Tianlu entered the courtyard, he vaguely saw Duan Muyu in Lin Yi's room. He suddenly felt a little awkward. This was disturbing the boss's good time. In fact, when they came over just now, they had already seen Yi Qingqing leave in a hurry, but they didn't care. They didn't expect that Duan Muyu would stay with Lin Yi. Before Lin Yi could speak, Duan Muyu said in a low voice with a red face, Lin Yi, I'm going to help Uncle Sect Leader to make some preparations to break through to the nascent soul realm. We'll talk about it when you're free. After saying that, she directly lowered her head and walked out quickly, leaving Lin Yi to watch her leave, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She was clearly a valiant and cheerful girl, but why did she become so shy now? Chu Yuntian, who came in behind Chu Tianlu, was also a little embarrassed. After Duan Muyu went out, he coughed twice and said, Master Lin, did we come at the wrong time? Lin Yi thought to himself, do you still think you came at the right time? However, seeing that Chu Tianlu was a little nervous, Lin Yi didn't bother to argue. He waved them into the room, sat down and asked, What are you two up to this early in the morning? Chu Yuntian glanced at Chu Tianlu, thought for a moment and said, It's like this, Master Lin. I'm going to take the nascent soul golden pill. It's just that I haven't taken the best nascent soul golden pill before, so I don't have a concept of its efficacy. If Master Lin is free, can you help me take care of me while I'm taking the pill? Hearing Chu Yuntian talk to him as a junior, Lin Yi felt a little uncomfortable. After all, he was Chu Tianlu's grandfather. Although cultivators respected strength, it was still a little awkward. Since he had promised Yi Qingqing, he naturally didn't need Chu Yuntian. Lin Yi simply nodded and said, No problem, come and find me when you're ready. Chu Yuntian was immediately overjoyed. He didn't expect Lin Yi to agree to protect him so readily. After all, he was already at the early nascent soul stage. If he took the nascent soul golden pill to increase his strength, there would be no problem. He dragged Chu Tianlu over to ask for Lin Yi's help, just to get closer to Lin Yi. Now it seemed that Lin Yi really thought highly of the Chu family. In the future, as long as he held on to Lin Yi's thick thigh, the Chu family's rise would be unstoppable. Just as he was about to say a few more words to worm his way into Lin Yi's good graces, Lin Yi seemed a little uninterested. Chu Yuntian immediately took his leave and took Chu Tianlu with him, lest he wandered around in front of Lin Yi and made Lin Yi unhappy. A few days later, under Lin Yi's protection, Yi Qingqing successfully reached the nascent soul stage and became the second nascent soul stage old monster of the Yiling sect. He could finally stabilize the Yiling sect's position, and Chu Yuntian successfully advanced by a small level. The whole process was quite easy. Lin Yi's protection really just watched from the side. After everything here was settled, Lin Yi was ready to leave. He gathered them together and said goodbye. Tianlu, the matter of your Chu family has come to an end here. I have to go back to the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island. Wuqing Xiaoyu, you two go back to your sects. Big brother Lin Yi, why don't I accompany you back to the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island first? Bing Wuqing's face was still cold, but her tone was not as stiff as before. Lin Yi smiled faintly and waved his hand. No need. You have to go back to the Snow Sword sect to prepare. Yu Taicong is done for, and Xue Jianfeng is also unreliable. Your Snow Sword sect has 3 nascent soul stage experts, and in the end, only you can bear the responsibility. Let's meet at the distant ancient grand meeting. Hearing what Lin Yi said, Bing Wuqing hesitated a little, but did not insist. Anyway, in Bing Wuqing's mind, Lin Yi's strength was far superior to his. If Lin Yi could not handle the situation, it would not make much difference whether he was there or not. For the Campus Bell's external articles, the latest news of the new book, please add the Fishman's QQ God public account, Fishman2, in the WeChat public account, Urine22. All kinds of activities are held regularly, and autographed books are constantly sent. Speaking of the North Island's Blue Cloud sect's current situation and future, Xianijia was immediately full of confidence. You've done well. The North Island's Blue Cloud sect will definitely flourish in your hands. Lin Yi was really satisfied with Xianijia. Today's North Island's Blue Cloud sect was completely thriving. As long as it kept going, it would definitely be one of the 4 sections. Of course, the premise was that there was no troublemaker like the center to stir up trouble. Thank you for your compliment, Granduncle. For the North Island's Blue Cloud sect, I'll definitely do my best. Xianijia was interrupted by Lin Yi's surprised, before he could finish his sentence. Granduncle, what's wrong? Xianijia looked at Lin Yi strangely, but found that Lin Yi turned his head to look at the distant sky outside the sect. There seemed to be a small black dot approaching quickly. Nothing, it seems that a guest is coming, Lin Yi said faintly. He turned back and stood there lazily, waiting for the black dot to come. Xianijia and Hong Zijuan were secretly surprised. At such a long distance, it was hard for them to identify what the black dot was even with their best eyesight. How could Lin Yi be sure that it was a guest? Although they didn't know what kind of guest it was, such insight was enough to amaze them. After a short while, the black dot enlarged rapidly. It was a rare flying spiritual beast, the 4-winged black eagle. On the back of the 4-winged black eagle sat a gloomy old man with fluttering beard and hair. For the latest news of the School Bell's new book, please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, in the WeChat official Urine22. All kinds of activities are held regularly, and autographed books are constantly sent. Chapter 5501. They don't look friendly. Looks like an evil guest is here. Lin Yi raised an eyebrow as he looked at the undisguised murderous aura in the air. They'd have to be blind to have come with good intentions if they said they were here with good intentions. Xianijia's expression changed slightly. 4-winged black eagle is a flying spiritual beast of the evil warding sect. Other sects don't have such a rare flying spiritual beast. That old man, is he the supreme elder of the evil warding sect, Enchantment? Evil warding sect? Why did he come to our Green Cloud sect so aggressively? Lin Yi found the name familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard of this small sect. Xianijia whispered, Grandmaster, Enchantment is a peak late nascent soul cultivator. He's only 1 step away from the peak nascent soul cultivator. Because of the evil warding sect's evil techniques, they specialize in devouring primordial spirits to cultivate. Very few people dare to mess with them. Devouring primordial spirit? Lin Yi had a strange expression. Should I tell you that I devoured the heaven-devouring crocodile's primordial spirit? But after listening to Xianijia's words, Lin Yi recalled that when his primordial spirit was just projected into the mortal world, he was chased by someone from the sect of warding off evil. After he failed, another one came. Could it be that these 2 people were exposed? Thinking about it, Lin Yi didn't really care. So what if he was exposed? Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid. It was just a warding off evil sect, doing all sorts of evil things all the time. Lin Yi didn't really care about them. In just a few words, the 4-winged black eagle flew above Lin Yi's head. It flapped its wings and hovered for a while. Then, the old man who looked like Enchantment jumped down easily. As the leader of the Green Cloud sect, Xianijia immediately cupped his fists and said, I am the new leader of the Green Cloud sect. Are you Senior Enchantment from the evil warding sect? I am Enchantment. Who are you? How dare you call yourself the leader? Where is Chanjiu? Enchantment had no intention of hiding his identity, but from his words, It seemed that he was completely unaware of the recent changes in Jadian sect. Otherwise, he would not have asked Chenjio. The former Supreme Elder Chenjio betrayed the sect and has already. Xianijia was about to answer but was shocked by a sudden shout. Junior, hand over your life. Enchanting suddenly yelled and interrupted Xianijia. At the same time, he attacked Lin Yi. After all, he was an expert at the peak of the late nascent soul realm. Xianijia and Hong Zijuan did not have any time to react to his sudden attack. If Enchanting's target was the two of them, they would not even be able to take one hit. However, Lin Yi wasn't Xianijia, nor was he someone Hong Zijuan could compare to. When he thought about how this old man Enchanting was related to the two kids who were after him in the common world, Lin Yi raised his guard. Enchanting's attack was indeed fast, but Lin Yi's reaction was even faster. With a thought, 3 consciousness whirlpools appeared around Enchanting in a triangular formation, surrounding him. Lin Yi's consciousness whirlpool had already surpassed the Tai Shi primordial spirit in terms of power. It had just formed, and it had a huge tearing effect on Enchanting's primordial spirit. Enchanting was caught off guard and suffered a huge loss. As he screamed, his body shook violently. His attack just now had completely missed. Xianijia and Hong Zijuan broke out in a cold sweat. They instinctively wanted to stand in front of Lin Yi to protect him. However, Lin Yi did not even blink and easily resolved Enchanting's attack. The two were amazed. The reason why Lin Yi didn't use the soul hook hand was because he wanted to find out what was going on. Why did this Enchanting think he was Lin Yi and attack him the moment he saw him? Don't be nervous. He's just a cultivator at the peak of the late nascent soul realm. It's no big deal. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said to Xianijia and Hong Zijuan nonchalantly. The consciousness whirlpool was a continuous attack that directly affected the primordial spirit. Lin Yi estimated that in a few breaths' time, Enchanting would completely lose the ability to resist. His primordial spirit would also weaken. As for Lin Yi's questioning, his ability to resist would naturally be at its lowest. However, what surprised Lin Yi was that Enchanting only screamed at the beginning. Then, there was a black light that flashed across his body, and the 3 consciousness whirlpools that Lin Yi sent out disappeared. Junior, you really have some skills. No wonder my good grandson died in your hands. Enchanting panted heavily a few times, then stared coldly at Lin Yi and said. From the alertness in his eyes, it could be seen that Enchanting was quite fearful of Lin Yi's methods. However, Enchanting didn't expect that Lin Yi was also very shocked. Although the consciousness whirlpool was only a small trick, it was the first time that Lin Yi used it after completely mastering it. How could it fail just like that? Previously, when he was only at the small success level, he could already use it to easily suppress the sea crab. In particular, the black light that flashed across Enchanting's body made Lin Yi even more fearful. This was because even Lin Yi's consciousness could not capture the shape of that black light. If he forcefully approached it, he felt like his consciousness was being melted. This made Lin Yi suspect that if he used the soul hook palm, would it be the same? Old man, who's your grandson? If he's some nameless person, then there's no need to say anything. Lin Yi said calmly. Even though he was fearful, he would never let this old man know. Enchanting snorted and said, Do you still want to quibble? No matter what you say, this old man's grandson died in your hands. That is definitely not wrong. Hee, there are too many trash that have died in my hands. Who knows which pile of trash your grandson is? Lin Yi casually said, but in his heart, he was analyzing the meaning behind Enchanting's words. It seemed like this evil warding sect had some kind of evil method to know who their disciples died to. As expected, Enchanting immediately answered Lin Yi's question. Junior, don't you know our evil warding sect's blood soul mark? Since you dared to kill this old man's grandson, even if you run to the ends of the earth, you will not be able to escape the blood soul mark. If this old man didn't just come out of seclusion, you wouldn't be able to live for so long. Lin Yi suddenly understood. So this was what was going on. It seemed like this blood soul curse would leave a blood soul mark on the killer when the evil warding sect's disciple died. This would lead the sect to the killer. However, This method should only be used by a small number of disciples. Otherwise, enchantment would not only say that Lin Yi killed his grandson. For the latest news of the school bell's new book, please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman's second generation, and WeChat account year in 22. All kinds of activities will be held regularly. Autographed books will be sent non-stop. Seeing Yin Chanching attack again, he yelled and rushed forward with his sword. Although he had just reached the nascent soul realm, Linny was someone he truly respected and acknowledged. No matter what, he couldn't just watch Linny get attacked. Hong Zijuan clenched his teeth and attacked as well. Although his strength was nothing in front of Yin Chanching, there was no way he could back down now. Two streaks of sword light intertwined from the left and right, trying to stop Yin Chanching's black wooden staff. However, before the two sides even intersected, Hong Zijuan's sword light was completely disrupted. He grunted and flew backwards. In front of Yin Chanching, who was at the peak of the late stage of the nascent soul realm, Hong Zijuan didn't even have the right to attack. Xianijia, on the other hand, only managed to hold on for a second longer before he involuntarily took a few steps back. Lin Yi's face was as dark as water. He yelled, "Back off." Then, he activated the Soul Hook Palm. Although Linny felt that the chances of success were not high, he still had to try. The result was as expected. The Soul Hook Palm failed for the first time. Yin Chanching's primordial spirit did not move at all. After the previous whirlpool, Yin Chanching seemed to have strengthened his defense. When Lin Yi's Soul Hook Palm landed, Yin Chanching's body flashed with black light again. The Soul Hook Palm was like a balloon landing on a nail, completely dispersing. Ha ha ha. Junior, your divine sense attack method is ineffective against this old man. Yin Chanching laughed proudly, but in his heart, he was secretly shocked. This junior was indeed powerful. Even though he had prepared with all his strength, his movements had still been hindered by this attack. His own attack had also been interrupted. If he had not been prepared, he would have suffered greatly. Linny snorted coldly and did not reply. Instead, he put his hands together and did three things at once. At the same time, he condensed his True Chi Pill Fire, and Divine Sense Pill Fire together. On the way back to the Green Cloud sect, Linny had thought about this when he had nothing to do. Since the Divine Sense Pill Fire could not be used for alchemy, then he would use it to make alchemy bombs. The original True Chi Pill Fire was already very powerful, but it required too much time. It could not be used as a conventional weapon. However, after adding the Divine Sense Pill Fire, Linny found that the speed of condensing was much faster. In other words, the power of the condensed alchemy bombs was much stronger. This much was more than 10 times, and it would increase as time passed. Yin Chanching's attack was interrupted by the Soul Hook Palm, but it only paused for a moment. Then, he once again handed the black wooden staff to Lin Yi. There was only a short moment left for Lin Yi. The 3-in-1 True Chi Pill Firebomb naturally could not be condensed slowly. Lin Yi tapped his feet lightly, and as his body flew back, he threw the small alchemy bomb in his palm. This was the first time the 3-in-1 alchemy bomb was used in actual combat. Linny did not know what the result would be, so he did not have high hopes. He just wanted to block Yin Chanching's black wooden staff and buy more time for himself. However, what surprised Linny was that when this small alchemy bomb met the tip of the black wooden staff with lightning speed, it completely exploded. This was a directional explosion. All the explosive power was concentrated in the direction of the black wooden staff, which was Yin Chanching's body. What is this? Yin Chanching was shocked. His black wooden staff had a shocking heat and destructive power. If not for the protection of the True Chi on the black wooden staff, the black wooden staff might have been incinerated. Furthermore, the flames that erupted along the black wooden staff made Yin Chanching feel slightly uneasy. He could only use all his strength to retreat, and at the same time, use all his strength to resist. In the end, he did not suffer too much damage. He just looked a little haggard. Linny retreated 7 or 8 steps before stopping. He thought to himself that he was lucky. For the latest news about the School Bell's new book, please add the Fishman QQ God public account, Fishman2, and the WeChat public account Urine22. All kinds of activities are held regularly, and autograph books are sent non-stop. Chapter 5503. Fortunately, with the addition of the divine sense alchemic fire, Lin Yi was able to exert a little influence on the alchemic firebomb. It formed a directional explosion and gathered all the power together to force enchantment back. If this alchemic firebomb was a little bigger, Lin Yi might not be able to control it. In other words, a more powerful alchemic firebomb might not have the same effect. It might even hurt him. Grandmaster, are you okay? Although Xianijia was pushed back, he was not injured. After he stabilized himself, he immediately came to Lin Yi's side and asked with concern. Lin Yi did not bother to look at Xianijia. He stared at Enchantment and said, "You and Hong Zijuan leave immediately. Otherwise, you will distract me." "Yes, Grandmaster." Xianijia hesitated for a while but immediately nodded in agreement. This was also because he had confidence in Lin Yi. He felt that he would only be a burden if he stayed. "You have to be careful. If you really can't do it, retreat into the sect." After saying that, Xianijia quickly retreated into the Green Cloud sect with Hong Zijuan. Then, he watched the situation on Lin Yi's side from afar. "Junior, you do have some tricks up your sleeve. I really underestimated you. In that case, to show my respect, I will be more serious." Enchantment's face was ferocious. He had lost to Lin Yi time and time again. Enchantment was obviously angry. Lin Yi laughed. "Just get serious and die faster. You're already so old, and I've shown you mercy a few times already. You still have the nerve to talk nonsense in front of me." Both of them were not willing to be at a disadvantage in their words. They were also secretly accumulating power. Lin Yi could only rely on this 3-in-1 super alchemic firebomb. Although it was not easy to control the bigger it was, if he wanted to kill Enchantment, he could only desperately increase its power. Of course, Lin Yi still had a trump card, the 5 elements murderous aura. However, with his primordial spirit's great perfection foundation establishment ability, it was hard to say if the 5 elements murderous aura could cause fatal damage to Enchantment. "Junior, do you only know how to talk? Hurry up and accept your death." Enchantment sneered. Then, he waved his right sleeve, creating a powerful suction force. This was the evil warding sex cultivation technique that targeted the soul. Previously, Enchantment had indeed underestimated Lin Yi. Even though he suffered some losses in Lin Yi's hands, he still didn't take him seriously. Only now did Enchantment finally show his true power. Although Lin Yi already knew that the evil warding sect was going to fight, he still couldn't defend himself. His Yuan Shun didn't have much resistance against Enchantment, who was at the peak of late-stage nascent soul realm. However, Lin Yi didn't panic. The 3-in-1 pill firebomb couldn't hit anyone if it was far away. Since Enchantment came to him, Lin Yi didn't mind giving him a big gift. When he was 3 meters away, Lin Yi threw the 3-in-1 pill firebomb. With the inertia of the pulling force and Lin Yi's own power, the 3-in-1 pill firebomb instantly appeared in front of Enchantment. Enchantment had a mocking smile. "Do you think I will fall for the same thing again?" As he spoke, the pulling force in Enchantment's sleeve suddenly reversed and became a powerful repulsive force that pushed Lin Yi and the 3-in-1 pill firebomb away. If the 3-in-1 pill firebomb didn't have the spiritual sense pill fire, then perhaps this cultivation method that targeted the Yuan Shun wouldn't be able to affect it. However, with the spiritual sense pill fire, whether it was the pulling force or the repulsive force, it was no different from Lin Yi's Yuan Shun. Enchantment had already noticed that Lin Yi was forming the 3-in-1 pill firebomb. Enchantment was indeed guarding against this move from Lin Yi. He pulled Lin Yi's Yuan Shun over so that Lin Yi would fall into the trap. The truth was that this plan went very smoothly. Of course, this was Enchantment's idea. A mocking smile appeared on Lin Yi's face as he said faintly, "I think you'll really suffer a second time." As he spoke, the 3-in-1 pill firebomb exploded. This time, although Lin Yi couldn't control the direction of the explosion, he could control the time of the explosion. Since he had already seen this move from the evil warding sect, how could Lin Yi not have a countermeasure? It would be best if he could send the bomb over smoothly. If that didn't work, he could just detonate it when he got close. Now, he was going to detonate it. While Yin Chanqing used the repulsive force to send Lin Yi away, Lin Yi also retreated with all his might. He flew out of the range of the pill firebomb with lightning speed. Unfortunately, the power this time was a little weaker. Although there was a huge pit in the ground, Yin Chanqing managed to escape from the edge of the pit at the last moment. Ah, damn, Junior. I will definitely cut you into pieces. Yin Chanqing was really mad. He thought that everything was under his control, but who knew that it wasn't the case at all? Every step he took seemed to have been calculated by Lin Yi. Casually extinguishing the sparks on his clothes and hair, Yin Chanqing shook his left sleeve, and the 3 blood-colored wolves expanded in the wind. When they came out of his sleeve, they were only the size of 3 fingernails, but when they landed on the ground, they were as thick as calves. Blood spirit wolves. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, and his expression became serious. When he had just arrived in the mortal world, he had seen the blood spirit cats of the evil warding sect. He knew that these vicious creatures specialized in dealing with the Yuan spirit. Although Lin Yi also had a pill fire that could restrain them, the problem was that there was Yin Chanqing next to him. Furthermore, these 3 blood spirit wolves were not something the 2 brats' blood spirit cats could compare to. At least you know your stuff. Dying to the mouths of this old man's blood spirit wolves isn't an injustice. Yin Chanqing sneered. Then, he commanded the 3 blood spirit wolves to attack together, and he once again used the Yuan spirit pulling technique to restrict Lin Yi's mobility. With a thought, Lin Yi produced 3 divine sense pill fires, which went to meet the 3 blood spirit wolves. However, these 3 blood spirit wolves were indeed not ordinary. They advanced and retreated in an orderly manner, and their speed was as fast as lightning. They easily dodged the attack of Lin Yi's pill fire. Seeing Yin Chanqing's sinister old face getting closer and closer, and this old man even raised the black wooden staff in his hand, Lin Yi's expression was calm. The 5 elemental killing aura turned into a flood dragon that roared and charged at Yin Chanqing. At such a close distance, and with Yin Chanqing actively pulling Lin Yi over, he never thought that he would suddenly be attacked by Lin Yi. For the latest news about the School Bell's new book, please add the Fishman QQ Gods official account, Fishman2, in the WeChat official account, Urine22. All kinds of activities are held regularly, and autograph books are sent non-stop. Chapter 5504. The most important thing was that Lin Yi had used the core firebomb twice, which made Yin Chanqing think that it was Lin Yi's strongest attack. Since Lin Yi had just used a core firebomb, it was obvious that he was at his weakest. Therefore, he was hit by Lin Yi's 5 elements killing aura. At the same time, after the 3 blood spirit wolves avoided Lin Yi's core firebomb, they pounced at Lin Yi from different angles. They opened their mouths and bit at Lin Yi's primordial spirit. Lin Yi did not care about these 3 blood spirit wolves at all. He did not care if the 3 core fires could stop these blood spirit wolves, because he was a primordial spirit. That's right, primordial spirits were the best food for blood spirit wolves. But Lin Yi's primordial spirit was different. He had learned how to condense the core firebomb. Now, as long as Lin Yi wanted to, his entire primordial spirit could turn into a ball of core fire at any time. Therefore, these 3 blood spirit wolves were destined to have 3 tragedies. When they bit Lin Yi's body surged with core fire. This was definitely the natural enemy of primordial spirits like the blood spirit wolves, and it was the most invincible kind of natural enemy. They did not even have time to howl before the 3 blood spirit wolves were completely annihilated. Yin Chanqing spat out a mouthful of blood. He had already been injured quite badly by the killing intent of the 5 elements because he had been caught off guard. Now that the 3 blood spirit wolves had been killed, his injuries were even worse. Even his spirit was instantly weakened. Old man, are you serious? Do you want to die faster? What a waste of time. Lin Yi continued to mock Yin Chanqing, but his hands did not stop. The frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm landed on Yin Chanqing's face. It was a pity that the strength of Lin Yi's primordial spirit was only at the peak of the foundation stage. If he was facing a peak of the late Jedon stage, whether it was the murderous spirit of the 5 elements or the raging fire 8 trigrams palm, it could pose a fatal threat. But now he was facing a cultivator at the peak of the late Yuanying stage. The power of these killing moves seemed too weak. If it wasn't for the backlash from the blood spirit wolf that caused Yin Chang to become temporarily stiff, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to use the Frenzy 8 trigram palm on his face so easily. Although it couldn't kill Yin Chang, it still made him dizzy. Divine Knowledge Whirlpool. Lin Yi did not give up and used the Divine Knowledge Whirlpool again. To deal with an enemy at the Yuanying stage, he still had to rely on his divine knowledge. It was a pity that the black light on Yin Chunqing's body once again canceled out the Divine Knowledge Whirlpool. Lin Yi did not know whether it was Yin Chunqing's technique or some defensive treasure. Yin Chunqing's body was cold, and he was extremely afraid. Lin Yi clearly only had the strength of the peak of the foundation stage, but from start to finish, whether it was fighting or scheming, he restrained Yin Changcheng completely. Now, he easily killed 3 blood spirit wolves and made Yin Changcheng spit out blood. If Yin Changcheng was not afraid, then he was really stupid. After the backlash from the blood spirit wolf was over, Yin Changcheng did not say anything and turned to leave. Although Lin Yi's attack did not cause any fatal damage, Yin Changcheng did not know if Lin Yi had any other tricks up his sleeves. Facing Lin Yi's endless attacks, Yin Changcheng felt that he had no chance of winning. Especially the Dan firebomb from before, it could definitely threaten Yin Changcheng's life. It was better to leave while he still had the ability to. Old man Yin, are you serious? Do you want to die faster? Why are you leaving just like that? Lin Yi shouted, but he was helpless. Yin Changcheng was the only person that Lin Yi couldn't do anything to after coming to the immemorial small underworld. Due to the difference in levels, Yin Chunqing's martial arts could not kill him, and his divine sense attacks were completely nullified by something on Yin Chunqing's body. This really gave Lin Yi a headache. Junior, wait and see. I will definitely come back. Don't forget that you still have the blood soul mark on you. Yin Changcheng jumped onto his 4-winged black eagle and flew into the sky. After he felt safe, he said something that was not very harsh and left the green cloud sect in a hurry. Seeing Yin Changcheng turn into a black dot and fly away again, Lin Yi's eyes slowly turned cold. This sect of warding off evil was really strange. If he could not think of a way, Lin Yi would be quite passive. Not only would the green cloud sect be in trouble during the immemorial grand meeting, when the center appeared, if the sect of warding off evil joined forces with the center, Lin Yi's advantage would be gone, and the entire immemorial small underworld would completely collapse. Perhaps it is time to create more peak nascent soul cultivators. Lin Yi murmured. Currently, it seemed like this was the only way. Yin Changcheng was not afraid of divine sense attacks, but he was afraid of physical attacks. Lin Yi's primordial spirit was restrained by Yin Changcheng, but if it was Bing Wuqing, it would not be difficult to beat Yin Changcheng up, right? Fortunately, Lin Yi did not lack nascent soul golden pills. As long as he reached the nascent soul stage, he could use elixirs to create a nascent soul perfected expert. However, it seemed like the only people that Lin Yi could trust now were Bing Wuqing and Xianijia. Yi Qingqing and Chu Yuntian were still lacking. Another point was that Lin Yi really had to think carefully about how to break through the limit of foundation perfected. If Lin Yi was a primordial spirit of golden core perfected, the 5 elements killing aura would be enough to deal with Yin Changcheng. Grand Uncle, are you all right? Seeing Yin Changcheng retreat, Xianijia quickly came to Lin Yi and asked with concern. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Of course I'm all right. Didn't you see that old man Yin Changcheng was the one who lost?" Indeed. As expected, Grand Uncle is much more powerful. I was ready to activate the green cloud sword formation, but I didn't expect Grand Uncle to defeat Yin Changcheng in just a few moves. Xianijia said excitedly. The green cloud sword formation was the protective formation of the green cloud sect in the North Island. It required all the disciples to participate in it, and it could only be activated when the enemy attacked the sect. Therefore, Xianijia told Lin Yi to hurry back to the sect if he could not win. However, He didn't expect Lin Yi to be so ferocious and defeat Yin Changqing in just a few moves. Even Xianijia, who was a hardcore supporter of Lin Yi, felt that it would be great if he could not defeat Yin Changqing in the beginning. Lin Yi smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew the truth best. On the surface, it seemed that he had defeated Yin Changqing easily, but in fact, Lin Yi had used all his strength. Even so, Yin Changqing retreated without any serious injuries. Speaking of which, this was quite a failure. For the latest news of the Campus Belle's new book, please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, in the WeChat official Urine22. All kinds of activities are held regularly, and autographed books are sent continuously. Carrot. Chapter 5505. Let's not talk about this anymore. The Archean Grand Meeting is about to begin. Are you ready? When are you leaving? Lin Yi waved his hand and skipped the topic of Yin Changqing. Instead, he asked about the Archean Grand Meeting. After the Archean Grand Meeting, Lin Yi might not have the time to return to the Green Cloud sect in the North Island. The Green Cloud sect was a big threat that had to be eliminated as soon as possible. Therefore, before leaving, Lin Yi had to settle the sect's affairs. Xianijia replied respectfully, "Grand Uncle, we were originally scheduled to depart 3 days later. Now that you're back, it's up to you. Because the preliminary preparations are done, there's no problem for us to depart immediately." Xianigia replied respectfully. Lin Yi was quite satisfied with Xianigia's ability to handle affairs. He nodded with a smile and said, "Very well, but we don't have to rush. Let's follow the scheduled itinerary. Let's have a private chat later." "Yes, Grand Uncle." Xianigia did not have any doubts. Anyway, if Lin Yi looked for him alone, it would most likely be a good thing. The remaining possibility was that Lin Yi would ask him to do some secret things, and he would get some benefits in the end. Lin Yi said no more. Accompanied by Xianigia and Hong Zijuan, they returned to the residence that Xianigia had prepared for Lin Yi. Then, Hong Zijuan left tactfully. "Sit down and talk." Lin Yi pointed at the chair casually and asked Xianigia to sit down. Then, he sat on the seat of honor. Xianigia thanked him respectfully and sat down immediately. However, his posture was not casual at all. He only put half of his buttocks on one side and maintained the posture of getting up at any time. "You don't have to be nervous. The Green Cloud sect has developed quite well under your management. It seems that you're a qualified sect leader. I didn't misjudge you." Lin Yi praised Xianigia, which made Xianigia very excited. "Thank you for your compliment, Grandmaster. I haven't done enough. I'll work harder to contribute to the development of Green Cloud sect in the future." Xianigia stood up immediately, bowed, and cupped his fists to show his determination. Lin Yi was also helpless. With his current status in Green Cloud sect in the North Island, it was not a problem for Xianigia to be so cautious. However, Lin Yi himself was not used to it. "Sit down and talk." Lin Yi raised his hand and pressed it down. Then he felt that there was no need for him to say anything more. He directly took out 6 nascent soul golden elixirs and handed them to Xianigia, saying, "These nascent soul golden elixirs are yours. You should take advantage of these days to improve your strength. When the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting comes, you'll have more strength and continue to improve the ranking of the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island." 6 nascent soul stage golden cores? Xianigia was really shocked. Chapter 5506. But now? The peak of the intermediate stage of the original level. In less than a few days, he would reach the peak of the original level and stand at the peak of the archaic underworld. All of this was like a dream. It was hard to believe. However, Xianigia had experienced all of this. All of this was brought to him by Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled. "Without your hard work, you wouldn't be who you are today. All right, let's go. When we arrive at the archaic mountains, you can continue to break through. Along the way, don't consume the golden elixir of the original level. Focus on stabilizing your strength." Actually, Lin already had a way to deal with enchanting. He didn't care if Xianijia could defeat enchanting. However, the central forces of the archaic underworld were getting stronger and stronger. It was necessary for Xianijia to reach the peak of the original level as soon as possible. The disciples who followed Lin Yi and Xianijia to the archaic grand meeting were all ready. When Lin Yi and Xianijia arrived, they got on their flying spiritual beasts and flew into the sky. Hong Zijuan didn't follow them. He stayed to guard the sect. After all, he was once a sect leader. He could rest assured if he stayed at home. The Archaic Mountains was located at the core of the archaic underworld. The natural treasures provided for more than 80% of the needs of the archaic underworld. To all the sects and clans in the archaic underworld, this was a sacred place for cultivation. However, there wasn't a single sect or clan in the archaic mountains. It wasn't that nobody wanted to occupy this treasury. It was that all the sects and clans in the archaic underworld wouldn't allow anyone to occupy the archaic mountains alone. Otherwise, they would attack together. After all, whoever occupied the archaic mountains was equivalent to grabbing the lifeline of the entire archaic underworld. Therefore, the town of ruins in the archaic mountains was usually uninhabited. It was like a ruin. Only when the archaic grand meeting was held would it be like a bustling city. The archaic grand meeting was initiated by the 4 sects and clans. Grandmaster, you know the 4 sects and clans, right? Xianijia followed beside Lin Yi and slowly walked into the ruined town. He began to introduce the primeval convention to Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded his head and said, I've heard a little about it. As the times change, powerful sects will weaken and weak clans will rise. The current 4 great sects and clans should be the Qingkuan sect, the 5-element sect, the Heaven Awakening faction, and the Shangguan clan, right? That's right. Right now, the 4 great sects and clans occupy the 4 directions of the primordial mountain range. Although they don't have the intention of monopolizing the primordial mountain range, everyone knows that the closer one is to the primordial mountain range, the more benefits one can obtain. If there are no unforeseen events, it is very difficult for the 4 great sects and clans to change their positions. Xianijia wanted the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island to be one of the top 4 sections. Even if the headquarters of the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island were not moved here, they should at least set up a branch near the primordial mountains. From Xianijia's point of view, this was definitely not an impossible goal. On the contrary, it was the best opportunity for the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, because the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island had Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi did not say it clearly, Xianijia was not stupid. Xianijia might have believed that Lin Yi was the primordial spirit left by a senior of the sect in the primordial era. But as time went by, Xianijia was 100% sure that Lin Yi was not from the small Jianghu of the primordial era. However, the relationship between Lin Yi and the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island must be true. Because of this, Xianijia privately guessed that Lin Yi would not stay in the small Jianghu of the primordial era. This might be the only chance for him to rely on Lin Yi. As long as the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island could be promoted to the top 4, Xianijia would also be at the peak of the nascent soul realm. The disciples of the Blue Cloud sect would also have a complete set of cultivation methods and cultivation resources, and the Blue Cloud sect would really usher in the opportunity to take off. After hearing Xianijia's words, Lin Yi could not help but nod secretly. The so-called change was just like the Thousand Blades sect where the invincible primordial era was. At that time, the Thousand Blades sect was in the limelight because of the invincible primordial era. However, after the invincible primordial era left, the Thousand Blades sect quickly declined. Now, it did not even have a place in the top 10 families. Thinking of the invincible primordial era, Lin Yi thought of Ling Tianyu. He did not know what would happen after he and the invincible primordial era returned. Would they revive the Thousand Blades sect? Or would they continue to be depressed? I've heard about the 4 major sects and families. Who are the top 10 families? Lin Yi asked casually. He knew that the Blue Cloud sect was one of the top 10 families. There were also Bing Wuqing's Snow Sword sect and Duan Muyu's Leaf Spirit sect. He was not very clear about the others. Xianijia was not surprised that Lin Yi did not know. He immediately replied respectfully, "In addition to our Blue Cloud sect in the North Island, among the top 10 families, there are Rising Sky sect, Snow Sword sect, Leaf Spirit sect, Evil Warding sect, Inyun sect, Six Directions sect, Xuanyu sect, Everyday sect, and Okuda family." Originally, the strength of the top 10 families and sects was about the same. But recently, there has been a big change in the archaic underworld. Maybe there will be a large-scale change in the archaic grand meeting this time. One of the people who caused such a big change in the archaic underworld was Lin Yi, who was always by Xianjia's side. Xianjia naturally knew about it, but he would not say it directly. Lin Yi nodded. Among the top 10 families, there were some familiar names, but there were also some unfamiliar ones. He did not know whether it was because of the decline of the Heavenly Island, or because these unfamiliar sects had risen after the rise of the archaic underworld. However, the Okuda family caught Lin Yi's attention. They should be of the same lineage as the Okuda family on the Heavenly Island. Thinking that he was the honorary vice-captain of the Okuda dam warship, Lin Yi felt a sense of familiarity with the Okuda family. As for the Shangguan family, which was one of the four big families, Lin Yi had guessed that they might be related to Shanghai Tianhua by blood. After all, the most famous Shangguan on the Heavenly Island was the Shangguan family. Martial uncle, apart from the top 10 families and sects, there are also some powerful families and sects that have a high chance of being ranked in the top 10 families. For example, the Chu family you mentioned, the Xuanji sect which is on the same side as our Blue Cloud sect, the Thousand Blade sect which used to be glorious, the Tyrant Blade sect which is quite powerful now, and so on. Xianjia's explanation was very detailed. After listening to it, Lin Yi had a general idea of the powers of the archaic underworld. While talking, the two of them had brought their disciples to the inn in Ruined Town. This was a place that would only be open for business during the archaic grand festival, so the decorations were quite luxurious. In fact, half of the entire Ruined Town belonged to this inn. That's right, the name of this inn was One Inn. For the latest news about the School Bell's new book, please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and his WeChat account, Urin22. All kinds of activities will be held regularly. Autographed books will be sent continuously. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.